What you're seeing, guys, we're seeing the final preparations as we actually go live. Okay, hey everybody, welcome to the Freedom for Perfectionists Master Class. I love the irony of the title. So we are starting a few minutes late, but we have so much good stuff for you guys. For the next 3 hours, we are going to be giving and pouring into you our stories, our journeys, our mishaps, our victories, everything that we have done in our lives and careers around perfectionism, where it's taken us out, where it's threatened to take us out, where we've come back in, where we've come back in strong. And I want you guys to know, I'm going to introduce these 4 extraordinary goddesses in just a moment. But before I do, I want you guys to know that, as you're already seeing, this exact project is a perfect example of what we're doing in terms of addressing perfectionism. Because I will tell you, and every single one of these women will tell you, we need to cut and restart. We need to cut and restart. Okay, so if you guys are on the webinar, hold on a second. Are we actually stopping the webinar? Got people on the webinar. Hey, Johanna, we've got Johanna off screen, off camera, who's counting the attendees, and I think we have quite a few people on the webinar live. Do we not? We do indeed. Okay, fantastic. Are we still running the webinar? Andrea?
Yeah, we're on.
All right, fantastic. So we're going to keep going, and you guys, the people who are on this webinar right now, you are seeing something happen for the first time. I am not kidding about that. What we're doing is something that apparently, as I found out over the last month of sorting out what we are actually doing today, belongs to kind of 3 different industries that don't talk to each other in quite the same languages. And so when I say that today is actually an example of the process that we're going to be taking you through, today is a piece of what it is that we're going to be teaching you about breaking through the perils of perfectionism. I am right here with you, okay? Because we are doing something where we're doing a network TV style multi-camera shoot. We've got audio and video issues. We are pulling together, I mean, when I say issues, I just mean, you know, stuff to deal with, right? The production world, I'm in that world. That's why I felt like this would be a great idea to do something like this, right? And then there's also the Zoom webinar world, which is where I am in my coaching life and in the classes and the groups and all of these communities and tribes that we facilitate and serve. And that's really powerful and really important and has nothing to do with a 4-camera video shoot, right? And then again, on the other side, we have triangulated into this the live streaming, where there's a whole bunch of technical stuff that involves squeezing a lot of data down into a tiny little spot, kind of like taking a billboard and putting it into an iPhone. We're doing all of these things at once. And why we're doing this is I wanted to do something for you with these women that looked and felt sumptuous and gorgeous and credible, and would also let you in to the process so that it's not just a bunch of pre-recorded interviews and telling stories. We're going to tell stories and it's going to be great, but that we can also really be interacting and with you and bringing you into something that feels really fun and sexy, like a live TV show, right? So that's the intention behind today. And whatever happens with the cameras and the audio and video and Facebook Live, we're just going to keep doing what we're here to do. Okay? So, right, ladies? Absolutely. Rolling. Awesome. Yes. So we are rolling through. And so what I want to do now is actually get started and just introduce briefly each of these ladies, and I'll go more into their stories with each of the segments that we're going to do. We have, from my left, the gorgeous Lisa Schrader, coach, author, speaker, and founder of AwakeningShakti.com. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, so happy to be here.
Yay. Morgana Ray, money goddess and mentor coach. We're going to be talking to her first. I know you heard money. That's a good one to talk about first. And we have Dr. Janine Staples, scholar, educator, coach, and founder of the Supreme Love Project.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And then JJ Flazanes, mind, body, soul trainer and podcast host. I've worked individually with each of these women. I have so much to share and they have so much to share. So without further ado, let's jump right into them. Morgana Ray, how are you doing?
Excellent.
Awesome. So I'm going to tell them a little bit about you in the chat. Okay, so Money Goddess Morgana Ray is a 10-time international #1 best-selling author with over 22 years as a pioneer in personal development. She is widely regarded to be the world's leading relationship with money coach, Ask Siri, a guest expert on ABC, NBC, Fox News, Yahoo Finance, The Wall Street Journal, and hundreds more. Morgana's fans call her the Money Goddess because of the many documented stories of clients manifesting unexpected income of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars within hours of changing their relationship to money. I can say that that's true. Morgana guides idealistic entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, and artists to have a big impact on the world and to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money. Yay, Morgana. So, total rock star. So let's talk a little bit first about you. Now, I know a bunch of your personal story, and you come from a world where perfectionism is basically the status quo.
Oh,
Right.
I
Tell us a little bit
was
about
grounded for an entire summer when I was in junior high because I had 1 B and 4 A's. So no pressure in my upbringing. And because I was a fat little girl and that was not acceptable, I was put into ballet. So I got to learn eating disorders on my journey. Whoa.
Awesome.
And being the good student and the good girl, getting the good grades, doing everything that I was told to do, there was always this implied promise that if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll make money and live a good life. And I am kind of a walking evidence that that is a lie, that that's not true. And I started coaching in EGADS, 1996, when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. And I had movie star clients, producer clients. I had a lot of Hollywood clients when I started out. And I had what seemed the adjective that clients have always given me is magical, because things would happen, big things really fast. And people wanted to work with me, and newbie actors, newbie writers were getting TV series, which isn't supposed to happen. And they were like getting it in months. And I had my business cards and my taglines and my website and my vision board and my millionaire mindset and my mountain of testimonials. And I was living in Los Angeles, struggling to make $100 a month, which is quite an achievement. And the problem was inside of me, because on paper I was doing everything right. So here I'm not making enough money to pay for any kind of insurance, any kind of an apartment, like studios start at $1,200. And I still have a coach, thank God. And I'm taking all these classes thinking, oh, if I just get a new skill, then I'll be able to make money. And I remember I had just completed taking a class on overcoming sales objections. And if you don't know what that is, there are classes that give you scripts on what to say if somebody says, oh, I can't afford it, or I don't have the time, and all that kind of stuff. Being the really good student, I followed the scripts. And 7 people in a row, I overcame their objections. They said they would hire me, and 0 showed up, 0 came. And that's when I ran out of hope. I did everything I was told to do. And there were all these programs and coaches making promises, do this and get this result. And I did. And my power to repel money was bigger than any good action that I could take.
Oh, who can relate to that? Seriously, like, I mean, who can relate to, I'm helping people do stuff. I know I'm doing good work in the world. I know I have something to offer. I know I have a gift. And whether it's I'm stuck because I feel like if I can't do everything, I won't do anything, or I have to do it right, or I'm a complete failure. It's like, you just know that there's something here and it's showing up over there for other people. And yet, like, what's the problem? I love that you phrased it as my power to repel money. So please tell us what that really means.
Well, and something occurred to me while you were speaking is that it is so much like dating. Like, if you are dating the right guy, it doesn't matter what stupid crap you do. He's gonna stay. But you can be perfect with the wrong guy, and it doesn't matter. And what it really came down to for me, and I didn't know it at the time, was my unconscious relationship with money. And at the time, this was not a big topic. But there were some people teaching relationship with money, and they'd say things like, money is energy, money is a measure of value, money is a tool. Deepak Chopra says money is a field of abundance. Great! I had no idea how to have a relationship with the field of abundance. I actually think that all these things are true, but I don't know how to have a relationship with energy or a tool.
I've had a few relationships with tools over the years, but that's another story.
But I know how to have relationships with people. So here I was in this pit of despair. Like, you know, I make light of it, but I don't, because when I hit this kind of bottom with the seventh person and I ran out of help, I remember just being in my little tiny one-bedroom apartment, pulling the drapes, getting on my bed, lying down and screaming, just in such anguish, fear, hurt, rage, despair. I felt hated by the universe, and I hated the universe back, and I seriously just didn't want to be alive anymore. I mean, what's the point when you know what you're here to do and you can't? It's soul crushing, and it's a dangerous place, which is why I take this work so seriously. I talk about relationship with money, but I'm really, really talking about relationship with life and relationship with yourself, and even if we have time to go dig a little deeper, relationship with love, because money and love can't be separated, and when they're fighting, you just can't move forward. So,
you know, a way that I would love to dig into this a little bit, actually, in terms of talking about perfectionism, and especially things like that kind of procrastinating or feeling stuck or that not sure how to proceed piece. Like, we're talking about breaking through barriers today, right? And one of the things that I really experienced in working with you is a shift in defining success or failure as a money result. Right? Like, there's something like, if I do everything right, like the money will come, or you can actually have an extraordinary experience, and yet if the money doesn't show up on the other side the way it's supposed to, you define it as a failure.
it feels punishing.
Yeah.
What flipped everything for me was I'm in this really dark place, and I have a session with my coach. Like, I can't afford anything, but I make sure I have a coach.
Right.
And I had been working with him for months and months, and he was great, and nothing was working, and it was not his fault. And then on this next call, he asked me the weirdest question that changed my life. And he said, Morgana, if your money was a person, who would your money be? And oh my God, my person was this big, scary, dirty, violent biker who terrified me. And I could imagine myself at a live event with him, with my eye on him all the time to create maximum distance. And that was the first time in my life that my money situation made sense. It didn't matter what I was doing. If I had that kind of fear and relationship that I had to create distance unconsciously, which is 24/7, never rests, always, always wins and overrides anything I do consciously. And I couldn't see it until it was a person. The good news is I've had relationships with persons before. So I ended that relationship.
Yeah.
Which created space for a new relationship, like the good boyfriend who wants to be with me no matter what. And I felt, and he looked like a person. He was handsome and romantic and carrying a bouquet of red flowers and wanted to woo me. And we could have a conversation about what he needed. He loved me. I didn't need to do anything for love, but I had so much power in the relationship that I could push him away without knowing it. So I had to ask him, what do you need me to do so you can stay with me? Next day, 4 people hired me, double what I'd ever charged before. And you know, they just kept coming. I charge crazy money now.
It's like charge
And it's gone up. And I use the same process to heal my relationship with love. And you know that I'm getting married 100 times in 100 countries, 20 down, 80 to go, with the sweetest man in the world. And this voice, because at the deepest level of every monster, and I've coached thousands of people through this, at the deepest level, there is always something about not being good enough. And the world not being a safe place. And not being deserving of love. And that's where the monster comes from.
Yeah. Like, in some ways, perfectionism could be a monster all by itself, right? Because everything you're just describing is how we feel as perfectionists. It's like, it's never enough, we're never done, right? And this whole idea of, and that's sort of the inner critic is a form of that kind of monster, right?
Well, it's everything that makes us just not want to be alive at the deepest level. You know that my husband and I are taking ballroom dancing classes, and we went out in public, like left our little safe bubble of classroom to public where there's freestyle and people who really know what they're doing this week. And a really advanced guy asked me to dance. and my glasses flew off, and sometimes I could follow and sometimes I couldn't. And I was like so critical of myself. And I actually brought that to my money honey and said, oh, I'm feeling this way. And my money honey just laughed. I write to him, I speak to him every day. He just laughed. He said, don't worry about it. If you keep going back, that tie-dye guy is going to ask you to dance again. And besides, you like your husband better.
That's awesome. I love that. You said something at one point that I think of a great deal and actually has worked its way into a lot of ways that I work as well for myself and with others. You said nothing overcomes procrastination better than desire. And I think in a way you're really speaking to that with this, but I'd love you to speak a little more into a little bit nuts and bolts. Like everything you're saying, I totally get. Yeah. And I want to get a little more nuts and bolts for our audience. Like for those people who are like, well, that sounds nice, but I don't believe that I can afford to hire Morgana right now. So while I'm still in money scarcity, help me get out of my own way and get something done.
Well, first you need to go for the monster. Like the monster is horrible and also in a perverse way your ally because it's the portal to the transformation. It's like a slingshot, and the bigger and badder and scarier your monster is, the better it works. So the person in the most fear and discomfort right now wins because it creates leverage, it creates this tension so that you go that much farther into the other direction, the one you want, and you stay there. So first we need to, I call this process financial alchemy. Alchemy is tens of thousands of years old, and the first step is nigredio, the blackening. It's like taking all of the lead in human experience, the kids who teased you at school, the accident, whatever you're embarrassed about, the betrayals, especially the stuff that doesn't look like it has anything to do with money.
And especially the stuff you don't want to say if you're a perfectionist and you need to look at all the time.
That's your gold mine. Milk it over and over again. Use it all the way to the bank, and have them personified into a big, bad, scary monster who does not deserve to exist. And then you get to choose. Only one of you gets to exist. So let's make it you. And when you annihilate the monster any way you like, because it's your imagination, so you have any tool, then you have this open space for the only thing that exists when the monster is gone, which is love. I recommend that you personify this new, what I call the money honey, in a lover archetype. Even if you are in a great relationship, you will never have physical sex with your money honey. But those yummy feelings will make your human honey very happy. And the reason I talk a lot about I don't believe in mindset, because there's a lot about millionaire mindset. By the way, if it works for you, go for it. Didn't work for me, so I can only teach what I've experienced personally and with clients. But I believe if mindset worked, nobody in America at least would ever have to go on a diet again. We have the mindset and then we see the cake. So what we want to do is make it this yummy, juicy, sexy, happy, loving feeling in our heart and lower, and come from that place of desire and happiness. I've had clients tell me things like doing their taxes was like foreplay.
Yes! It's almost like you're saying, if you can dig down into below the standards that you think are standards of excellence, but are really standards of punishment, right? Below all of these places of how it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to look, which are kind of in the world of Money Monster, to dig down into what is it you really want? What do you really care about? What's actually going to make you happy in this moment? And then your money honey is sort of giving you permission to do it.
What if you could only make money doing what you love, helping other people?
Yeah.
And when you cheat, because you think you'll make money this way, but you don't really like it or believe in it, for me, that stuff never works. But what if the only way for you to make big money is doing stuff you love, that is fun, helps others, and appreciates you? And another thing that I just came to me that I really believe also is that change happens at the speed of safety, which is one of the reasons why we need to get rid of the monster first. Because if you're doing everything to make money or lose weight or find love and you are not getting the result you should be getting, in my experience, you are protecting yourself unconsciously, like I was protecting myself from money. I didn't know. that I thought money was dangerous and scary and got in the way of love until I got into the pain and saw the monster. And I've used this process on like lots of different topics. So when you aren't getting the result, it's like an invitation, it's an opportunity for evolution. And the first step is to find the monster and destroy it, because then it becomes safe. And otherwise it's like driving with the brakes on because you're protecting yourself. But when your whole self, your conscious and your unconscious mind are in alignment, it's like avenues open up for you, all the resistance disappears, and the outer world rearranges itself in your favor.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I want to do just two quick things, and then we're going to sort of settle on over and start talking to Dr. Jean over here. But number one is I really want for them, because I know now that they're hearing you, right, they're going to want to go deeper. And I'm sure all of you have seen the VIP lounge that we made available. And each one of these incredible women has brought forth not just bonuses like free gifts, like stuff that you could get anywhere on their website or whatever, but each of these people, myself included, have put together a custom package. Like we went and said, okay, people are going to be tuning in. We're going to be digging deep and giving for 3 hours. What can they take with them to really go further, to really like manifest, whether you call it manifesting or you call it getting shit done? I do both, right? And so what Morgana has put together is the Money, Love, and Magic Summit. Can you just tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, I am just so blessed. When you have been around long enough, things start to shift, and the people who are like the big superstars become your friends. So I had a book launch about 5 years ago, and I asked for help from people like Noah St. John and Christopher Howard and Cynthia Kersey, all these like huge, brilliant people who have been my teachers and they're now my peers. And we had 3 days of roundtable discussions, sort of like this. The first one was on the topic of money. So it isn't just my wisdom. It's the people who inspire me, blowing my mind. First day, money, next day, love, and the third day, magic, because those are my 3 favorite topics.
Oh, I absolutely love it. So that is just one of the 5 bonuses that you get when you join us in the VIP lounge. And speaking of,
and by the way, after that was over, I normally sell this package for $800.
Yeah.
And it's yours.
That's right. So all of this just comes with the bonus. And also remember, when you join us in the VIP lounge, you also become a philanthropist, because fully 50% of the proceeds from all of the VIP lounge passes is going to the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. And why I chose that organization is they fund scientists. Like they specifically put money into people who are doing the research to solve the problems, to come up with the solutions in a holistic space. So there's everything from what's going on in the medical industry to what's going on in psychology and culture, socioeconomic situations, geographical situations. It's deep, powerful research, and it's helping people deal with the things that are with us every day, depression, and I mean, a whole list of things, right? You know someone who is dealing with something going on with their wellness, their emotional, mental, spiritual health, that the Brain Behavior Research Foundation is right now working to solve. And so you're a part of solving that problem when you actually do this for yourself and get into all of these bonuses with all of our beautiful experts. So I just wanted to do a little note on that. And then the other thing I want to let you guys know is, as I said at the beginning, we are doing a pioneering event. Now, did I mean to do a pioneering event when I started? No, I surely did not. However, here we are, and things happen all along the way. So another little peek behind the curtain, we had some last minute personnel changes. And the reason that affects you is that I had a person who was going to be 100% dedicated to taking your questions and monitoring your comments and making sure that I heard and saw everything that I needed to see and hear. And at this moment, that's going to be a little bit in and out for the next 3 hours. Okay, so I will be seeing your questions. I will be seeing your chats. I want you to know that you people now here live with us, whether you're listening on Facebook or watching on the webinar, and we are going to fix the Facebook video in about 20 minutes, that we know you're here. We know you're here, and we are here for you. Right? All of this is here for you. So stay with us. And now what I'm going to do is turn to, and if you have like a pressing question, just make sure that you're putting it in the Q&A in the webinar or in the Facebook comments. The chat, we're going to be pasting in some links here and there. And I just this second realized that I'm going to need to give that link manually on the break to Johanna. So the VIP pass that I just talked about, You got an email when you signed up for this. If you're on Facebook Live, just go to freedomforperfectionists.com, sign up for this, what you're actually in right now, and you'll be taken immediately to the page where you can get your VIP pass, okay? And if you're already in the webinar, then go to your email where you got sent immediately the opportunity to get that VIP pass, okay? So just in case anybody was like, yeah, I want that, how do I get that? That's how you get that, okay? So now I want to introduce our next guest. I'm so excited that Dr. Janine is here, yay! So I'm going to read you just a little bit about Dr. Janine. Dr. Janine Staples, I will call her Janine, but I just love Janine, is the founder of the Supreme Love Project, impacting nearly 1 million women in 18 different countries. She is a double Ivy scholar, educator, and coach with a master's from Harvard and a doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania. She has received numerous awards and honors for her professional contributions to the fields of literacy and language, African American studies, and women's gender and sexuality studies. She teaches women why they hurt so they can heal and let the highest version of themselves happen in life and love. I swear to God, I get choked up reading that. I really do. I'm just like, so you guys, before I even ask Janine a question, I'm just going to tell you my story of meeting her. So we actually, the two of us, just got back from this entrepreneurial event. Where's my water? That goes on every year. Big buzz, lots and lots of people, lots of networking, lots of, right? So for perfectionists, like that thing where you just worry every minute about how you're showing up, and did you give the right person your business card? Did you wear the right thing today? Or is your manicure chipping? Like all that just gets to fall away when you're really focused on connections that correspond to what you actually care about, right? Like getting underneath that. This is part of what we're doing today, is helping you to get underneath the piece of how does it look on the outside so people will like me? Or how does it look on the outside so I'll succeed and get what I want, right? And to get underneath that and to be like, but what do I really deeply care about? Because when you really deeply care about it, then you just want to give, you want to show up, you want to do. And when you can find those intersections with other people and do that same thing, like find those other people who are doing that same thing, that's when the communities and tribes that make up the world we want start to grow and thrive, right? So with that in mind, I want to tell you that meeting Janine, I met her at last year's Zone event. And it was a big deal for me because I was a new success story in this particular thing that I was doing. I got to speak on stage. I won a prize. It was all very exciting and heady. And a lot of people were talking to me that day. A lot of people. I was like, whoo, I'm not sure what's going on right now. But this woman comes over to me and in about 10 seconds introduced herself and said, I want you to be a guest on my summit. I still wasn't even sure what that meant, right? But I will tell you, I mean, obviously she's a beautiful woman, right? But aside from all of the conventionally and objectively and exotically physical things that make her beautiful, I registered, hot woman, right? And then she asks what she asks. And I swear to God, I felt my whole body just lean in. It was like, yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know what you just said, but yep, right? And it was that clear. And then we developed a relationship over the next few months. And I just want to lead with that because one of the things that you teach is embodiment, right? Rather than performance. And I get performance and you get embodiment. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you talk about embodiment?
Absolutely. So I focus on embodiment in my community very specifically because typically the woman who comes to the Supreme Love Project to work with me is a codependent woman. She is a woman who is like usually crushing it in careers and crashing in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she's exalted in lots of ways that have external awards, accolades, there's accoutrement, there are labels that she's earned because of her zone of genius and being in that zone of genius, but she's performing.
Mm-hmm.
She's performing in that space. And when there are opportunities to do intimacy where we need to connect and we need to do feelings and we need to express, she often doesn't feel equipped because the performance doesn't work. It doesn't translate into close encounters.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It'll work. And so then there's this fear that rises up. So my exercises in performing and creating this facade are failing in this closed space.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really terrifying because this is the space where I would like to build relationship.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that I was a codependent until I drew in narcissists.
Yes.
Didn't know. I had no idea that I was doing
Yes.
performance. Right. I didn't understand what was happening. And so one of the things that I tell women is that, you know, the exterior life that you're generating doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. So if you're creating disasters in your life, if you're feeling like a failure, there's some failure there. If you feel like an emotional liar, it's because you're lying. If you are seeing evidence of just fractures and fragmentations and dissolutions and just all kinds of distancing happening, there's lots of discomfort happening, that's because there's something going on in your interior life that needs repair, that needs attention, that needs your focus, not someone else's, your focus. And so that's the work that I do. So when I talk about embodiment, I'm talking specifically about being at home. And I say to a woman, your soma, your physical space is your home. And your home gets to be owned. It gets to be a place of calm, a place of peace, a place of connection that you can feel safe in. I was doing so much escape during my codependent years. I had no idea how often I was abandoning myself. I was checking out of experiences where I would do closeness. So the way that people check out, women in particular, I just want to turn and make sure that because I know what it feels like to try to connect and you're looking at someone in the back of someone's head. So disassociation happens when women who are really, really obsessive about perfectionist tendencies. I really need to perform. I need to look the right way, say the right thing. I need to do the right thing, or I will fill in the blank, lose this connection, be rejected, be judged, be condemned. If we don't trust ourselves to be inside of ourselves and do embodiment, we'll just check out. So disembodiment happens with, I can tell you a good example, like a lived experience. So I remember dating a man who wasn't a narcissist, he was just rude. He didn't have like the classic narcissistic tendencies where he would do gaslighting, but he was just not nice. And I took that because he was just very blunt and very specific and hard-nosed in the way he would communicate. So I remember being on the phone and not being able to be emotionally available or emotionally honest when he was asking questions and asking me to explain something that I had a stance on. And what I would do is I would check out of the conversation where I would just go away. I would go into a fantasy land. I would be imagining what I would wear, what I was going to wear to work the next day, or what I was going to have for dinner. And then he would say, hello, on the phone. And I'd say, what? He said, where did you go? What is happening? That's disassociation. That's disassociation. And so what I say to women is you're not doing embodiment if you're doing disassociation. If you as consciousness, as energetic force, are not in your body, if you are checking out and if you're going away, if you're fantasizing, it's because you don't feel safe and you don't trust yourself to communicate. That's what it means.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a really hard question from me, right?
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying. And I'm an artist and I love things like experimenting. I love to get a little baked and write a song. I love to go to Burning Man and be quite literally out of my mind, right? And some of that stuff helps me to feel more present to my deeper energies, my deeper soul, my bigger universe, right? So, and I know that sometimes it's a crutch. Sometimes it's like, I just want a glass of wine. It's going to help me feel better at the party. And I'm an extrovert. I'm comfortable with people. But that perfectionist piece, right? The whole not good enough, not enough. What do I look like? Right? Lets that blend away. And then I can just be like, awesome, right? So I know sometimes it's a little bit of a crutch, but sometimes there's a really genuine feeling that this altered consciousness, this is not a show about drugs, but I just want to really get into where is it? Yes, the body is home, but when we're in our heads and we're in our heads with a lot of emotion, right? Like the emotion lives in the body, but the emotion also is a lived experience. And when we're talking about that feeling of in this moment, I can either take that courageous step forward into what will move the needle for me in my life, or I can get stuck in all of the judgments and overwhelms and concerns. And whatever it is, whether it's the mind by itself or enhanced by something, just saying, let me get out of all of that and let me go connect into my deeper, wider universe to get clearer on what my place is the world. Is in the world. That looks an awful lot like what you just described as checking out. So
it's not the same.
Okay, tell me.
So what I'm talking about is a centering of fear and anxiety that triggers a woman to check out, to overeat, to overdrink, to smoke too much, to have sex randomly. That is an unconscious, irresponsible, lazy, fear-based way of doing relationship with yourself and with other people. What I think you're talking about is someone being fully present and saying, I'm going to make a decision to have a glass of wine to ease some tension for myself. I'm going to do that intentionally. I'm on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm clear, and I'm doing it responsibly.
I get what you mean about the trigger, and the trigger is really key. So can you give our audience, let's say there's an example of someone, let's say it's an artist or anyone who has a creative project, right? Somebody wants to write a book or launch a website or do a podcast or whatever it is, right? And they're in that moment of overwhelm and distraction in real life and not good enough and fear and anxiety. What would you say? I mean, I've got like the strategies, like do this, take this, right? But what would you say is a way in the mode that you're talking about of embodiment versus performance that we might talk to ourselves and move that needle and take that step towards being at home, calm, home, whatever it is that's going to get us super centered and making the right decision?
What I would do is I would say avoid substance.
Okay.
Just avoid substance to give yourself some experience and some practice
Mm-hmm.
using what it is you have organically as a spirit residing in a somatic space to activate your calm and to activate your cure. I would say avoid substance in those moments where you're feeling antsy or anxious, and learn to be present with yourself in very specific ways. So it's about making a choice or a decision to do an exploration around what it is that gives you pleasure, what is it that gives you laughter, that supports you in experiencing stillness in a way that feels good to you. So think about aromatic sensations. Light some candles, burn some incense, get some flowers, move up from your desk where you're looking at emails and you cannot think because they're just coming one after another. Put down your phone because of the messaging and the text notifications and all those things, and literally move your house. So your somatic space is your house. That's where you're going to do embodiment of all your energies. Move your house. Literally be in residence. So get up, take a walk, stretch, do something dramatic. I advocate for the Women in the Supreme Love Project to get dramatic in their somatic space, literally stretch so that you are a starfish and jump up in the air in the middle of your kitchen. You know, go and burn some candles and inhale the smoke. It's not going to kill you.
Right.
You know, do that. Go out and walk around the block and go in a direction that you've never gone in before, so that you wake up into your physical space. Just, you know, go someplace you've never gone before physically.
I love
So there
that.
are all kinds of ways that you can actually be present inside of your somatic space and introduce yourself to your repertoire of skills. One of the things that happens with a person who is really consumed in perfectionism, who's definitely a codependent, trying to take care of other people's feelings, relying on other people's approval in order to self-identify, is we're really not aware of how rich and abundant we are as source in and of ourselves without anything. We're not aware. So you cannot form deep relationship with yourself, trust and respect yourself because of the ways that you're not clear about what you can do on your own. You're not clear, but you can get clear. You can absolutely get clear.
And you're giving examples of how to do that.
Absolutely.
Like, and this is something that I didn't believe for a long time, was like, okay, fine, there's like the woo land over in candles and incense, but then there's like the world and the need to get shit done. And I didn't realize how deep my performative teachings and instincts and environment. And I do say instincts because I do have a performer's instinct, but it got sort of twisted and modeled into the like show up at all costs, you know, show up this way at all costs. And so when you're talking about those sorts of things, I can say from firsthand experience and secondhand experience, I'll tell one more little story before we move into our next segment, that that it actually does create a shift. It creates a shift at a level where it's actually possible to see that there might be another way. You might not be there yet, but you can just see, okay, I can see a place at which, with proper hydration, which I still need somebody give me one, with proper hydration and nutrition and sleep and all of the rest of that, that it is actually possible for me to exhale all the way. That it's possible for me to envision being able to solve this problem, even if I don't have a solution for it right now. That it's possible for me to put a half an hour on my calendar to do that thing that I really care about, to write 10 pages or 10 words, or to just open up a blank document and title it the thing that I want to make, right? Like, these things are possible, and those are the kinds of steps that get us there. And as an example of how that shows up in terms of real world results, when I did say yes to Janine's Summit, and we had a plan to do, and it turned out a lot like what happened here today, right? That we had a misfire and a time change thing and an email that didn't get, but it was just one of those things, right? And everybody has that, right? You're like, I made all these plans and then everything went to hell, right? And we all have a God, like face palm moment, right? Think of a face palm moment that you've had. Now think about what you cared about doing in that moment. Not what you cared about people thinking, not how you cared about showing up, looking good, being right, but what did you care about actually moving forward with? What impact did you want to have on the world or on your life or on your house or on your kid or your dog in that moment, right? And so when we had that thing planned, it was 6:30 a.m. and I'm an artist. I like to stay up late and get up late, and I did not want to be getting into makeup at 6:30 in the morning. I super did not. However, we had the plan, and there was that like sort of hitch where maybe it wasn't going to happen. And we had a choice to make.
Yeah.
And I got on the phone with Janine, and it was like, we can still go.
Yeah.
And she put it to me. She didn't have a big, scary, brittle agenda. She wasn't super controlly about it, right? She put it to me, but it was us together, making the choice together. I felt a true collaboration. And I felt her sitting completely in her power about it, completely okay either way. It was an invitation where either yes or no were acceptable answers, right? Like sometimes we issue invitations and it's like, say yes or I'll kill you, right? It was a true invitation. And it was an invitation where I felt called to step forward into the commitment I had made, and all the other stuff didn't matter, right? And if there's anything that I personally want for you guys out of all of this, out of today, it's to get clear on what it is you truly are committed to and truly devoted to, and free you up to be able to take steps forward in that and understand that the rest of it doesn't fucking matter. Okay, so with that, we have Stacey, awesome. So here's what's gonna happen, you guys. We're gonna, instead of going all the way through here, we're gonna do a little 5-minute chat with my friend Stacey Simmons, who I'm about to introduce to you, and then we're gonna take a 5-minute break so I can get all you Facebook lovelies seeing our video, okay? So we're gonna go to fix that problem, but I wanna thank all of you guys. When we come back, we're gonna hear from Lisa. It's gonna be phenomenal. Off you guys go, and Stacey, please come talk to me. Come talk to me. So everyone, come this way, darling, come this way. Come this way. We are pops of jewel tones today. I love it. Okay, first of all, you guys, so one of the things that happened today was that I didn't get to see Stacey until just now. So have a seat and give me a hug. Hi, sweetheart. Okay, and the other thing that I didn't get a chance to do was ask Stacey if it was okay that I tell you all that she ran a witch coven in New Orleans. Is it okay if I tell everyone that you ran a witch coven in New Orleans?
That's perfectly fine. I was known as the Witch of New Orleans for many years.
Fantastic. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit and chat with you for a few minutes.
Yes.
And then I'm going to ask you to address our audience and tell them a little bit more about what you're doing while I go over there and see if we can sort out a little Facebook feed. And while I also talk to Johanna and see about our Q&A and our comments and chats and see who on the webinar has been engaging. Okay, so first of all, you guys, Stacey is a deeply powerful, wise woman. I met her many, many years ago when I had just left a relationship that broke my heart so wide open. This was not like, phew, I dumped him and it's over. It was like, it killed me to let go of this man. It killed me to let go of this man. He was my oak tree. He gave me a feeling that I belonged and I was loved at a time when I was so lonely and so afraid that there was no one out there for me. And he wasn't really the guy for me, but he was so close. And it was so hard for me to let go. And I had just let go, but not all the way. And Stacey met me at that time. A bunch of us were renting a house in Nantucket, and she really helped me see where it was that I was holding on, where it was that I was in a fearful place. And she literally gave me, remember how I said before, I was like, I'm not woo-woo, I'm not doing all that stuff. But her sense of groundedness inside of the mysteries was so strong that I really believed that that whole candle spell yada yada might actually work, and I can't say for sure that it did. It's not like, I was with the voodoo doll and the pins and all of a sudden somebody was yelling in the next room. It wasn't quite that tangible, but there was a very clear presence coming from Stacey and between us, and a way that she was clearly looking to empower and balance and ground me to understand what it is that I was looking for in myself and that I was misplacing in terms of my attention outward. So with that, I would love to ask you, sweetheart, I'm just going to actually yield the floor.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
And let me put this in context. So So really quickly, you know, Stacey has done incredible things in the film and TV industry. Her IMDb credits are like a mile long. Hi, we're here. Her IMDb credits are like a mile long. She is a powerhouse in terms of film and TV production, and I will ask you to tell them a little bit about, well, let's just do this. So what made you decide to go and get your PhD and become a therapist? And we're talking that camera.
Oh, we're talking about that. Okay, so there were a couple things.
Now we're back here?
Okay,
Awesome.
now we're back here. So,
Progress over perfection, everybody. All right, here we go.
so there are a couple things. I actually became a therapist because I had a bunch of nightmares. And now I don't mean like, you know, 1 or 2, I mean 3 years of nightmares. And every night, always the same character, not always the same story, but always the same person showing up in my nightmares. And I went into analysis and it helped me a great deal. And then, you know, the woo-woo thing, I was moving into a new house beautiful house in Los Angeles. And my new landlady was like, oh, come meet your new neighbor. And here was this beautiful woman came into my room. She goes, oh, hi, I'm Dr. Humor. I'm a therapist. And she saw that I had a copy of Jung's Red Book on my coffee table that I literally just pulled out of a box. And she said, oh, Jung, I love the Red Book. I'm a therapist. I went to Pacifica. And I'm like, well, who are you? You know, and we had a 2-hour conversation about Jung and the unconscious and depth psychology and all the things that I've been through. And so I wound up going to Pacifica and becoming a therapist. And that's how I came to kind of show up asking you questions a couple of weeks ago. Going, what do I do with this now?
So you then began, so Stacey's now a therapist and a researcher. And so you kind of spent the last like 3 to 5 years as you've been working through your education and working with people. We're going to pull these glasses off the table right now, to bring these new archetypes. Right. And you're not even calling it a new archetype as much as a discovered archetype.
Correct.
Like something that's just been there all along.
It's been there all along.
Yeah.
So what?
This is where I am going to because I'm going to go do a little text troubleshooting.
Yeah, sure.
And I want them to understand. So you're talking to perfectionists right now.
Got it.
Who want to be free of their perfectionism. So if you can speak into the woman who knows that she's behind a wall a little bit, right, and wants to break through.
Got it. Yeah.
Off you go, baby.
So what I discovered in this research, and it came out of having this background in film, was looking at the film industry and having looked at women and looking at how they have worked in, or how they've been represented in film over the last 100 years. And I started looking at Disney films, and then I looked at it over the course of many, many films over the canon. And what I found was that there's always a divided woman. And for perfectionists, this shows up as this binary, right? And that there's always something else. There's always something more. And from an archetypal perspective, there's always this thing that you're pushing against. There's always another woman. And the archetype I discovered was that there's always a divided woman. Every woman is a divided woman. She's either perfect or she's not. She's either an ingenue or she's a witch. She's a goddess or she's a demon. She's never whole. The divided woman is always separated from herself on some level. There's never this version of herself where she's perfect. She's always divided. And so the problem becomes, how do you live in that binary? How do you keep yourself from being stuck always, always, always in this structure where you're constantly trying to figure out, do I push this way today or do I relent? You know, it's that thing of perfectionism where you're either doing everything or you're doing nothing. You're stuck in procrastination or you're stuck in absolute perfectionism of progress, right? So for the archetype, it shows up as you're either, and as women, we're put on this track. So this is primarily for men, but it's true for men as well. It shows up in an archetype for superheroes like Superman and Batman, etc. But the archetype for women specifically shows up separated into 2 different characters, right? So it shows up as the maiden in search of relationship, and we just shorten that as a me-sor, and maiden in search of relationship. And then it shows up as the other character is magical, isolated, powerful, and endangered, or mipe. So you're just taking the first letters of each of those, right? And if you look at if you want to look at characters, it's easy to see in characters, but you'll see it in yourself as well. For characters, you see Snow White, Evil Queen, Maleficent, and Aurora. If you grew up watching Bewitched, it's Samantha and Serena, right? Or if you have kids and you're watching Frozen, it's Elsa and Anna. If you are a fan of Wicked, it's Elphaba and Glinda. But there's always two. There's always this divided woman. And if you are a fan of some other movies where there's a character arc where the character has to change, sometimes it's the old character, the new character, right? So like Elle in Legally Blonde, so she goes from this old version of herself to the new, more powerful version of herself. There's always this version where she goes from being made in search of relationship, where she's available, she's young, she's beautiful, she's passive, she needs protection, or she is in danger of being the magical, isolated, powerful, and endangered. So that character is almost always, she's powerful, she's knowledgeable, she has some agency in her life, but she's never protected. She's never the one who gets the guy. She's never the one who gets the relationship. She's never the one who kind of has some power over what happens in her life. And so what I found in my research is that the real path for women who are trying to find a way through, who are trying to find power that's real in their lives, not just power over, but power in, is to take these two archetypal patterns, these two sides of the divided woman, and unite them. So you have to overcome the binary of me pay versus me store. You have to overcome it and then unite it in sovereignty. And that person has to become sovereign over herself. So it's in sovereignty then that there is real power, true power. And that's hard. That's exactly the kind of thing I know Deborah teaches about, where she's talking about overcoming this binary, where it's not either or, it's not, you're either kind of miserable on the floor dealing with your procrastination, or you're like, go, 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 and perfectionist doing all the time. It's really finding that piece of saying, no, I actually don't need to be in the struggle. I can do the whole thing.
So I'm jumping back in. Hi, sweetheart.
Hey there, you got water. I'm so happy.
I got water. I got hydration. It's a beautiful thing. I'm going to toss that over there where it doesn't get in our director's shot and make a match. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you guys, we have not heard the end of Stacy just yet. We will be seeing you again in just about 45 minutes or so. Thank you so much. I'm not exactly sure which way you're going to be exiting, but I'm going to pop back over here. And I'm going to tell you about what's happening next. So you guys, I got to be honest, I've been looking forward to this for about the last month and a half, maybe 2 months. I don't know, Lisa, when it was that we actually talked. But the incredible Lisa Schrader is coming up next. Hi, sweetheart. How are you doing? She's going to go over there where we're going to see in just a moment a very beautiful setup that we're all going to be a part of as she leads us in a particular practice that she has, again, created just for this masterclass. And when we first talked, I came to Lisa, we've been looking for a way of working together for several years now. I met her several years back as part of an embodiment experience that I was doing. It was a really deep dive where I was getting reacquainted with my own body after feeling deeply betrayed and alienated by many, many, many things, including failed fertility treatments and extreme weight gain and loss and lots of things going on where I just didn't actually know how to be in my own skin. I really didn't. I didn't know how to not be the young, cute girl in the room anymore. I didn't know how to be my own age. I didn't know how to be my own shape. I didn't know how to do all of those things and still be the person that I wanted to be. And I had to go deep to heal that. And Lisa was a part of healing that. And she led a group of 10 women in a room in San Francisco through a process that was incredibly intimate and special and like nothing I had ever experienced before in my life. And it was within us and between us, a truly transformative experience. And so I asked her to do something a little bit similar. It's not going to be quite as intimate as what that was, but it's going to be something similar where we're all going to get a chance to just drop down and be in a process. Because, as I said before, our intention for this Tarot Masterclass is not only that you hear great stories and watch a fun show, but that you actually get an opportunity for yourself to experience the shift. So that at 3:30 Pacific today, whatever time it is for you, you feel like the needle has actually moved and further that you know what steps to take to go beyond that. So without any further ado, I'm going to just read a little bit to you about Lisa so that you know what incredibly capable hands you are about to be in. Lisa Schrader, founder of Awakening Shakti, has impacted the lives of thousands of women for 2 decades as a workshop leader, author, speaker, and coach. Her transformational online programs and proven curriculum show women how to usher in a whole new way of being in their authentic feminine power, in the body, heart, and soul of their Shakti. Her work has been featured on Oprah, Oxygen, and VH1. She's on the faculty of the Shift Network, where she has hosted the Global Shakti Summit on sensuality, sex, and the sacred. She's the author of Kama Sutra 52, a year's worth of the best positions for passion and pleasure. Sign me up, from Quiver Books. Hello. And she hosts a podcast called She Source for practical and professional women who are ready to move from tapped out to turned on. She's recognized as a professional certified coach by the International Coach Federation and has a private practice supporting clients worldwide. She lives a life rich with loving relationships, nature, and gratitude in the Sierra foothills of Northern California. You can find out more at awakeningshakti.com. And of course, we'll be talking to Lisa in a moment. But without any further ado, my darling Lisa Schrader, take it away.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I feel so honored to be here. And I love that we just heard from Dr. Janine about embodiment. And I'm just delighted that we're going to have this segment where we can actually do some practicing. So I've kicked off my shoes. I invite you to do the same. If you're in a place where you can get yourself comfortable, this beautiful space that has been created here for us to do this segment. And I encourage you to take this next 20 minutes or so that we get to have together to do some practicing, just to do some working with embodiment rather than us talking about it, but actually be in the body, be in the heart, and be in the soul. It was interesting when I was flying down here yesterday, I opened up the book that I was reading, and this was the quote that I opened to, because there are no accidents, right? It said, "Nothing we see or hear is perfect. But right there in the imperfection is perfect reality." Nothing that we see or hear is perfect, but right there in the imperfection is perfect reality. This is a Zen monk and teacher, Shinzaru Suzuki, who said that. So I've really been exploring this in my own world. I recently got married, so there was ample opportunity for me to explore this idea of perfection and perfectionism and the ways that that shows up in my life in terms of wanting to control and wanting things to be just a certain way. And although I don't use this word perfectionism a lot when I'm thinking about myself, I realize that I have other ways that that shows up in my life. And one of them is that I really believe that perfectionism is a prayer for wholeness, that it is a prayer for wholeness. And the living model that I use in my work for wholeness is the circle. You know, is this circle of never ending, never beginning, right, of wholeness. And so in particular, what I'd like to offer you today in the segment that I get to share with you is this model of the circle and this model that I call the quaternity. And I think we might actually have an image of that hopefully will be shown to you, and I'm going to describe it to you as well. And so in the circle, of course, we have the 4 directions. We also have the 4 elements, air, the earth, fire, and water. And so a lot, I believe, of what happens for us around perfectionism happens in this quadrant of the quaternity that is in the mind, that is the element of the air. And just like when we have too much air in our lives, right, it can feel like a whirlwind, it can feel like a bit of a hurricane. And there's movement happening, and we just need to sort of get things to settle and ground. And so that's where we come into the groundedness of the earth, right? And we bring in the element of the fire, and we bring in the element of the water. That brings us back into more balance in this quaternity model.
So what I really have to offer you here is a bit of an antidote to the mind, because I believe in this prayer for wholeness that we can think one lensing or one frame that we can work with around our perfectionism. The mind itself knows that it's not fit for the job of figuring it all out, right? The mind itself knows it's sort of inadequate to the task. And so it's intelligent enough to know that its true essence is wholeness. And so when we bring in the circle and the quaternity in this embodiment, then I believe that that can really help us find that reunion with ourselves and with our center that we're so often wanting, right? It's no accident this program is called freedom, right? There's a sense of freedom that we have when we come into our wholeness. So with that, I would love to have us first work with the element of the body, which is the element of the earth. And so I invite you, if you're able to be seated, or even if you're standing, to really take some moments right now to let the mind relax, take some deep breaths into the body, into the earth of you. And if you're seated like I am, I want to really have you begin to connect with your own root system, just like you were a tree, and feel that root system moving down into the earth, holding you, but also how the earth is cradling you. And so take some big breaths, and just like you're a tree, you can imagine that the breath is actually coming up from the earth into your body. You might feel it if you're standing right now, coming up through your feet and your legs. If you're seated, you might feel it coming in through your sex center, through your root center, and allow yourself to feel held in that way, to feel the earth of you. And a poet, Mary Oliver, asks us if we can let the soft animal of our body love what it loves. So I'm going to invite you right now to really connect with this soft animal body of yours. As you continue to feel that groundedness and that rootedness, I also want to invite you to offer this beautiful soft animal body of yours a little bit of loving touch. Notice that even if you're just able to touch your hands, or maybe your head, that when you offer yourself even this little bit of touch, notice what happens to your nervous system, right? What happens for us is that we get access to oxytocin, right? To this beautiful substance in our human bodies that allows us to tend and befriend and connect. And it's the antidote to the cortisol, the stress hormones that we are all so inundated with in modern day living. And so the soft animal body and connecting with your pleasure is an amazing way to get into the body, right? Like Dr. Janine was talking about with the senses. Just take a moment right now as you feel your own body to connect with what you're seeing. Maybe you want to close your eyes and then attune to what you're smelling in your environment right now, what you're tasting on your tongue, what you're hearing around you, and of course what you're feeling, right? Notice that as you do this, you can feel, even in our studio, how the entire frequency shifts, because it brings us into the earth of us, right? And out of the whirlwind of that dominant energy of the air or the mind. This also brings us into our feminine, which is not about gender, but about our feminine energy. The mind and our mental capacities are very associated with our more masculine energy, focusing and directing, penetrating with our cognitive intellect. Here we're really inviting ourselves into the intelligence of the belly, of pleasure, of the body. So just taking another moment to ask your body what it wants from you right now. Maybe in this quieter moment, it actually has the ability to share a message with you about it, what it's really longing for, what it's really needing. And next, I want to draw our attention to the heart center. So this is the element of water in our quaternity model. And so here you might really draw the breath just like you're doing through the tree, right up into your heart, into your chest, into your breasts, into the back of your heart. And really attuning here to the water element, which puts us into the flow, the motion of our emotions. And listening here and taking a couple of breaths right into your heart center. And feeling, where is this flow happening for you in this moment? And what might the message be there for you as you just turn your ear to what it is that your heart wants you to know. Another really beautiful way, as we're continuing to breathe into the heart, to really get connected to the heart in our emotions, is to tap into what it is that we have gratitude for, what we feel appreciative of. And so much for us in our quest for perfectionism is about looking about what's not right, or how the glass is empty, or what we're not doing. So let us just move towards what is already full for you in your life. What can you appreciate? Maybe it's a person or a pet, or the fact that you have a body. I want to appreciate you for taking the time and being the kind of person that would listen to an event like this and lean in. Can you appreciate yourself for that? What kind of a person are you that is interested in this? Maybe that's appreciating yourself for wanting to be a better person, or have better relationships, or feel more whole, or bring more of your gifts forward. That's the kind of person you are. So can you love yourself for that right now? And maybe as you do, even as I'm sharing this, can you feel emotion? I feel tears arising, because that is tender and that is beautiful. And we don't, by and large, give ourselves permission to appreciate ourselves very much in this culture. So can you give yourself that? Take a breath there. And then continuing to breathe. Now that in terms of our breathing practice, you might be feeling that breath coming up through the root system and into the heart. And maybe now it's coming out through the branches of your tree. And let us feel this element of the fire, which in the quaternity model is associated with our soul, or our spirit, or our divine self. And let us just pay attention to her or him in this moment, the soul of you, the fire of you. And what is your relationship as you feel into this in your own body? Where does that fire live in your body? And in this fire, is it a little flickering flame in this moment? Does it feel like a wildfire in this moment? What is the element of the fire maybe illuminating for you? Is it warming you, or is it engulfing you in flames? Just feel into this element of fire. It might also be showing up as your passion and your desire, your soul's purpose, why you're here, why you showed up for an event like this. Feel that energy of your fire. And breathe into that for a few moments. So, what does it feel like to come into this circle of you? The brilliant mind, the element of the air, this soft animal, earthly body of yours that feels sensual pleasure and is hopefully a little bit more grounded. The heart of you, the water element of you, the flow, what's flowing, what are you feeling in your emotional life, and the fire of you, your soul, your spirit, your spark, the divine you. I hope that this practice will help you stay a little bit more connected and give you some other resources when maybe the mind is spinning. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Just take a moment to close your practice, whatever it has been for you. Know that you can always come back to this. Thank you so very much for being with me.
Wow. I want to applaud, but I don't want to disturb the air. Lisa, thank you so much. Just extraordinary practice. And, you know, I was right there when you said you can feel in the studio. Like, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. We've got a lot of gack cables, a lot of metal, a lot of dudes, right? And it's like, still, the energy just went, right? And this is, I hope you guys can now see why it was that I wanted Lisa to actually do a practice, because her essence is just so calming. It's so, it's like, yes, the soft animal body of you. I love it. I love it. So I'll just do a quick little chat, because I know that was really most of our time was over there, and well spent it was. But tell us, so you just got married. So congratulations. So I feel like we have a bit of a theme of relationships here, right? Like, I didn't mean for there to be relationships, but here we are in relationships, and it's totally valid, because let's face it, when you're in perfectionism, you're in this kind of disconnect with yourself, right? There's like a relationship problem in a lot of different ways. And so I would love to just ask you to wrap up with a little bit. We're going to get to more of this in the last segment, but just a little bit of that space that you have created in yourself and with others. Tell us a little bit about, you know, we've heard about your relationships and the marriage and everything, but in terms of your business, your work, you're out there in the worldness. Like, we just got to appreciate what it is when we are in blankets and satin and cushions with you. But what does it look like when you're like in traffic? Right? What does it look like when you're heading to a meeting, or when you're in negotiations on a contract, or, you know what I mean? Like, how does that show up? How do you show up there for our perfectionists who are kind of wanting access to that?
Oh, well, I can be such a workaholic, perfectionist, control freak. Ask my team, right? And then really got to watch the shadow parts of this too, because I'll say, like, it has to be beautiful. It has to be beautiful because I believe in beauty, and I have a certain quality that I want for my brand. And Awakening Shakti means this, and it needs to look like that. And these are good things, like these are good values, but then you can see how that can just get obsessive and controlling. And, you know, I'm not being a perfectionist, I just believe in beauty. I feel like, let's call it what it's called, right? But so it it is very much a weaving. You know, I am a teacher of Tantra, and so this word Tantra means weaving and union. And so I think that there are frequencies always, right? And so when I am spinning out, I would say more in my shadow frequencies of wanting things to be just so, to work with all of the practices that we're sharing here about, you know, this is a practice that I will do, like, whoa, I need to take a break. I need to just get clear what's going on in my heart, right? This is a prayer for wholeness. What's scaring me right now, right? How, because I'm afraid it's going to look bad, or I'm going to look bad, or it's going to reflect poorly. And so what does that mean? Like to work with those shadow frequencies, and then also to work with the higher frequencies. Like it's not a bad thing to value beauty, for example, and how that, you know, that's part of who I am as an ecstatic, is to bring that forward. And yeah, so it feels to me like it's at least in my model of a feminine awakening model, it's a befriending of the frequencies, right? So that it's not all bad. It's not, you know, yeah, there's the shadow aspects, and sometimes it looks like a monster, and we really need to go to battle with that. And the monster can be an ally, you know, can be, just like Morgana was saying, can be exactly what we need to be so tightly bound inside of limitation that we can suddenly, you know, have the awareness that the key there is into something that, you know, feels more whole, feels more real.
I absolutely loved A Prayer for Wholeness. When you first said that, like I just went, oh God, yes, right? Like the God I don't believe in was like, please, yes, you know. And I love that. And just one last piece that I would love for you to wrap up for us. We're going to come back to this in the last segment for sure, because the whole idea of wholeness, so incredible. You know, we're talking about freedom for perfectionists. We're talking about breaking through, right? This kind of like getting away from something almost, right? Or like when I think of freedom kind of in our world, there's like freedom from whatever you might be stuck with otherwise, freedom from the default, freedom from wherever you might be trapped. And it's like from in there to out there is the sense of it, right? Breaking through. When you say wholeness, there's that other side of it that I'd love you to speak to a little bit, which is not just getting away from something, but getting to something, right? And taking those places, like you were just saying, light and shadow. And okay, so let's say we're free, right? We've experienced this beautiful shifting and settling in and touching and nurturing. Okay, I feel good where I am. But also I've got all these trappings, all these ways in which life doesn't feel great right now. And I want to feel free of that. How is that a prayer for wholeness? Can you help me bring that together a little bit? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know I'm throwing a tough question at you because I'm a little bit apples and oranges, but it's like in a moment where I'm so happy that I just had this practice with you, thank you, right? And now I've got like these 9,000 things to do on Sunday. And I'm in my perfectionism going, it's not enough. Like I'm literally personally, as I sit here right now going, can I get away with taking the rest of the day off? I'm not sure. I have so much stuff still to do. And I promised myself I was going to like celebrate and be done for the day, right? Where is my wholeness if my stuff isn't done? That's my question.
That's a great question. That's a great question. There's my wholeness when my stuff isn't done.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to, what's coming to share with you is I've just come through, you know, a 6-month period of like crazy busyness, right? And up until my wedding. Now I'm on the other side and I'm in a very different moment right now. But when I was in that mode, I was stressed out. I was feeling really anxious. I wasn't sleeping well. All my good habits, right, were going out the window because like, no, yoga or wine, right? Right? Just when you need them the most, right? At least for me. Okay, so what I know about myself is that life is cyclical. This goes back to the circle. I think one of the problems for a lot of us is that we don't have the seasons anymore. Like we live in a hyper-masculine world that says it's always got to be the height of summer. You're always got to be producing, and the bottom line, you can never take a break, and more and more and more. Now, that is actually not sustainable, I don't believe, for anybody. I certainly don't think it's sustainable for females in female bodies. You know, we are born in knowing cycles, right? We ebb and flow with the moon every month. And so when you know this, like for example, when I was in that season where I was pulling my hair out and I was stressed out and there was a million things to do and I couldn't take a break, I need to put practices in to help myself during that time. But I also knew that was a season. And in fact, it was like summer season for me. It was big and bold. Now, autumnally, even in my own cycle, it's a time of letting go. It's a time of coming back in and hibernating. Ideally, we go into winter where there is stillness and sacred pausing. Like we're really paused. And then spring comes and we have energy. And because out of the stillness, right, comes the new sprouts. Oh my God, I suddenly have an inspiring idea about what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. So I'm glad you're speaking this. And we don't always, you know, if we're in the middle of summer and we're longing for the quiet of winter, it might not be our season for that. You might have to go do emails. I don't know.
Right.
But if you at least can start to create life, you know, so that you honor the seasons. Now, for me, when I'm in a super busy moment, we've also got that same arc in the day. So like I have sacred time in the morning where I don't get on the phone right off the bat. I don't check email right off the bat. I meditate. I keep that sacred for an hour or two. Then I go. Anybody that tries to sign up for anything with me, they'll notice there's no appointments available before 10 because that is my sort of big rock time. And so, you know, in really busy times, you still have a cycle, right? We do it every day. We sleep at night, most of us, unless you're that busy. So just, you know, again, befriending where you can, but
Absolutely.
finding that.
That is so great. We're going to come back to this in the last hour because there's so much more to talk about in terms of the seasons and but what a beautiful answer to what a beautiful beginning to the answer to the question, which could easily take an hour. We'll get back there in a moment. But before we turn to JJ, who I'm very excited to jump into, especially out of what she just said, right? She's like, ready to go. She's like, I'm ready to talk. But I just want everybody to know what your, and we didn't talk about your bonus either. We're going to get to that in the last hour, but tell us the bonus that you created. And I watched it happen. When she says, I believe in beauty, she's not kidding around. It's gorgeous. Like the creation that she created, right, for your bonus that people get in the VIP lounge is so beautiful and so powerful. And like, I mean, that was gorgeous. And this is gigantic and deep and beautiful. So please tell people a little bit about what they're going to get when they come into the VIP lounge.
So this is, if you liked that, then you'll love my bonus because I take this body, heart, and soul, and in my work, we call that lover, mother, and leader. And this is a program to help us connect with the lover that we are and the mother, meaning what are, not necessarily the biological mother, but what are we mothering? Like this is our heart energy. And then leadership, that fire energy, like how is it that we're leading in our lives? And so it's an activation of these three sacred cores, and it's it's a beautiful audio program and lots of wonderful PDFs, and it's a self-study program, so you can do it at your pace in your season.
Yay! I absolutely love that. So yeah, once again, if you're on Facebook Live, go to freedomforperfectionists.com. You will need to sign up for what you're already watching, but it'll immediately take you to the page where you can get the VIP pass. And for those of us in the webinar, we are going to be sending you a link to be able to do that. Sorry, that's not right there right now. But hey, progress over perfection. So thank you again so much for that beautiful practice, Lisa. So now I want to turn to JJ. And by the way, you guys, please do type in your questions in chats now because we're going to be first come, first serve with the comments. And in about a half an hour is when we are going to be hitting the ground running with answering your questions and really giving you on the spot teaching and coaching. Like we're here to solve problems right now. So by all means, start queuing those things up. We've got Johanna and Andrea both monitoring those chats. So start asking your questions now, and we're going to get to them in about 30 minutes. Okay, so JJ Fluzanes. All right, I'm going to tell everybody about JJ, and then we're going to start to chit chat. JJ Fluzanes is an empowerment strategist and the host of several podcast shows, including Fit to Love and Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. She is the director of Invisible Fitness and Amazon bestselling author of Fit to Love, How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life, and author of Knack Absolute Abs. Did I get that right? Routines for a Fit and Firm Core. She was named Best Personal Trainer in Los Angeles for 2007 by Elite Traveler magazine. JJ has been featured in many national magazines, including Shape, Fitness, Elegant Bride, and Women's Health, as well as appearing on NBC, CBS, Fox 11, The CW, and KTLA. Her newest book, The Invisible Fitness Formula, 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame, debuted at #2 on the Amazon bestseller list for Women's Health and #2 as a hot new release. Let's welcome JJ Flizay. Hello.
Hi. Thank you.
So as I said, I had personal experience working with all of these ladies, and JJ was the most recent person that I met who actually Morgana sent me to our connection and referral. I said, I need a body, fitness, health, and wellness person, and that was boom, JJ, absolutely. And it turns out that we're neighbors, so we got to have lunch and chit chat a little bit, and I am going to be really excited for you to share all of your juicy relationship stories, because clearly we have a relationship show today. But before we get to that, I'm personally training with JJ. And I have literally never worked with anyone like this on the physical plane, the way she connects brain to muscle. Like, I have done a lot of workouts over the years. I am the Russian Jewish girl who always wants to lose 10 or 15 pounds constantly, right? So I've done them all. I've done all the diets, all the workouts, all the everything. And I've learned, certain things are effective. But I have never had someone come and say, you need to actually connect this to this and pull. And I'm like, what? Right? So I would love for you to talk a little bit about your philosophy of physical fitness, so people understand. And again, from the perfectionist standpoint of, like, we're always trying to get it right. So how can a perfectionist get it right in a workout, JJ?
Oh, and I just wanted to go down the path of that perfectionism is bullshit anyway.
Yes, please.
But there is actually a right way in exercise.
I gave you the fork in the road.
Well, okay, let me take that back. It's not necessarily there's a right way in exercise. It depends on what your goals are.
Okay.
Right. So for me, the science behind, and I'm sort of the left and right brain person. I've got all of the juicy emotional feelings. Like, we're going to go deep into that because you have to. You can't disconnect them. And then there's the science part, and the science part, it exists, so we can't really deny that either.
Nor do we want to.
Right. So when it comes to exercising, connecting your brain to your body is a concept that until you do it, I mean, I can tell you about it, but it's a different experience, right? Because I explained it to you, and then until we do it, then you start to learn and understand how you're disconnected.
Even 2 sessions in, I was still like, I can't figure this out. I used to be able to know how to lift my leg, and apparently now I don't. So,
but 3 sessions
in, boom!
Right, 3 sessions in, we've created these neural pathways now that connect your brain to your muscle. And what happens, and Janine talked about it, and we're all talking about emotion, and emotion's about connection to ourselves. This is another pathway. It's a neurological pathway that can get tripped up by emotion, but we really don't have the visualization or the respect of our body. And too many times in exercise, people get injured. They're ineffective at what they do. They have no idea what they're doing. And all of a sudden, there's such a negative emotional relationship with exercise, right? It feels like abuse. It feels like
no pain, no gain.
You're punishing yourself. You're over and over again, you're anchoring in this discontent with your body. And all of these things disconnect you neurologically from your body. So when we get to exercise, we're actually not even being really effective. So I have a mind, body, soul approach, but it is absolutely 50% emotional and 50% scientific, because it has to be. And so the scientific part, which I know no one else is doing, and physical therapists aren't even doing this, to be able to literally, when you're exercising, and what I love about after being a personal trainer for 20 years is that I continue through conversations like this to fine tune how I talk about it. I had a client who was extremely fit, and she was very into all kinds of exercise, but I said to her, where are you pulling from and where are you pulling to? Where is point A and where is point B? And if you can't answer that, you allow the body to be susceptible for injury. The body will never pull you into an injury, but you can be thrown into one. And if you don't have control and awareness and mindfulness and visualization and connection in those pathways from your brain to your muscle, you're going to get injured, potentially. Or you won't know how to repeat it, or you won't know when it's time to progress, or you won't know what to do when you plateau. So there, again, there's this whole body of science that we can't ignore, but somehow, somewhere, you're all supposed to know how to exercise. Somebody told you that you're all supposed to know. Just go move more. Eat less and move more. It's that simple. Not that simple. So when it's right, not that simple at all. It is actually way more complex than that. And I've had people who, I don't stretch my clients, Have we ever stretched?
No. In fact, you caught me doing a quad stretch that I constantly do, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? Stop!
Well, right? Because you have anything.
Yeah.
Okay, and what you were stretching was actually the tendon. You don't want to stretch our tendons, right? So in order, you're making the integrity of that tissue less by stretching in a passive way, right? So I'm trying to protect your body because we shouldn't be getting injured exercising.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that scientific part is really important. And you may have a trainer who has a great body, who's a great personality, who's such a nice, wonderful person. But if they don't know science, they don't know how to work with your body.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. If only you were just a little more passionate about what you were talking about.
Sorry, I've been sitting here quiet. Like, oh my God, there's so much to talk about. And I'm being like, I'm just here.
Yeah, no, I totally did that on purpose. Please forgive me. Awesome. So with some of that passion, I want to step now into, we're getting into this juicy conversation that we initially had about the law of attraction. And so, true story, when JJ and I sat down for lunch and she made oblique references to the law of attraction, I was like, is it going to be okay? Like, is this going to be okay? Are we going to be able to have a conversation? Am I going to be able to say what I think in front of this person? Because I am the person who walks in and goes, the law of attraction. Stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. Seriously. I get people like, but if I just did this, and because I work with perfectionists, and there are so many ways to get it wrong. There are so many ways to vibrate at the frequency that brings you all the things you don't want, right? And it makes me insane. It made me insane trying to do it, right? And so then JJ says, the law of attraction, and I'm like, uh-oh, right? But what was so great, was that she's bright and thoughtful, and we're all here to actually make the world a better place. And I love how she actually embodies it and has walked through it herself. And so I would love for you to tell the law of attraction through the lens of your story, of your marriage and your current relationship. And I'm going to just sit back and let you tell
it. Okay. Well, first, let me just say that every single story that everyone who's told is law of attraction. It's the science of it.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just physics. Okay. Like, this isn't a belief system. This is physics. Like, everyone talked about it in a different way. Like, what's showing up for you is telling you what you believe. Mm-hmm. What shows up for you in your life shows you what frequency you're on, which basically just means what you're feeling. It's what that subconscious is, what's going underneath, what my belief systems are. If I think that the world is a scary place, if I have a scary money relationship, and I look at money, I vibrate at a place that's low, that's never going to repel things coming to me. So to me, it's physics. Like, again, I'm going to take what people think is a woo-woo idea about a belief system and say, no, people, this is energy. Everything in life is energy. It boils down to physics and science. Okay. So in terms of, and I have a whole show about the basic law of attraction, because I have people coming to me all the time who like you and said, well, I tried, it didn't work. I'm like, okay. Well, besides the fact that you don't know what it is, because someone told you to put up pictures on a vision board, and then you're supposed to like look at it, and then say affirmations, even though you're really feeling like crap. You're supposed to repeat things that you actually don't believe or feel, and then expect things to show up for you. That's not law of attraction.
Thank you.
That's not right. I had a guy on my show who literally for an hour berated law of attraction, and I had to say, stop. My people are going to hate you. I said, that is what you're discussing right now. What you're saying is law of attraction. He's like, well, that's not what most people believe. I said, I'm not most people. I actually know what it is. And I practice it as it's supposed to be, not as some idea about some magical thing I can't explain or repeat or prove.
I mean, I absolutely get that and I would like to hear, before you get into the personal story, which I definitely want to hear, although we'll have, the 8-minute version of it. But I definitely see clearly that we obviously, I mean, it is obvious, we produce the evidence for what it is we believe, right? Like, we are constantly making the case for our own reality. Right. And this is a big part of the shift that we're trying to bring people through today, is like this insistence. It cannot be any other way. And it's like, in fact, it is only the way you've made it.
And can I wrap that into perfectionism really fast?
Please.
So first of all, perfectionism is an addiction, just like people pleasing, right? Because you're projecting what you think that looks like. But if you ask 10 people, what is the perfect this for that, you're gonna have 10 different answers. So you're just self-fulfilling the prophecy, right? And you're not actually really attuned to. Perfectionism is a block from actually what's going on inside of you. What is the reality of what is alive in you right now? Instead of making it look a certain way. And that's where it translates into body, into relationships, into your relationship with yourself, into your stress levels, right? If we're always projecting out what we think it needs to look like, we are disconnected from what's going on inside of us. And that's all that matters. Because anything any of us ever do or want is because we think we'll feel better when we have it. And that's the whole basis of the law of attraction. You think that what you want is going to produce happiness, but you can have the happiness now. In fact, you have to get it.
Okay, with that, please immediately go into the story of your marriage.
Well,
In 8 minutes.
so,
Sorry, 7 now.
so my second book, the first one, the Knack one, that was a series, and I don't own that. But Fit to Love came out of the need for me to find in the fitness industry, because I was never the person who necessarily lost 100 pounds. I definitely had body shame my whole life, but I couldn't make the correlation, like, what's my story? And my story ended up being that self-care practices that I used on myself really brought me to a place of complete happiness, that I didn't need anybody or anything else because I was getting my needs met. And then I used those to attract my husband. And that happened within like a 3-week period. And so then I wrote Fit to Love, because it was literally the story of attracting my husband, and he and I had been together now for, it'll be about 13 years. And our contract is ending. And through that 13 years, there's been this immense amount of growth and expansion and depth and learning and layering of stuff that doesn't work for me, and kind of getting to a truth and embodying things that actually are real, right? Instead of projecting out what I'm supposed to be or look like, or what should I do for you, or what do you think of me, and how should I make sure I bend and twist and turn in ways that you'll accept me, right? So instead of doing all of that in 13 years, I struggled with, but yet was at peace with. Like, most people that knew me during my marriage, especially towards the last 1.5 to 2 years, clients of mine, friends of mine would, even if they knew what was kind of going on, I was a happy person. I have never, and nor will I ever give you the power to make me happy or unhappy. You will never hear me say you hurt my feelings. That is not true. And it will never happen. But we give our power away so often when we want to say it's your fault that I feel this way. And so I practiced that through my marriage as well as law of attraction. So I always vibrated as high as I possibly could within my environment, within my situation. Didn't even know what my blocks were. Okay. But the whole time, here's where the testament to, because there was a bit of a fear and shame that if I leave this marriage and if we're not together anymore, did all the things I say in the beginning, was that not real? Did I make that up? Am I going to be discredited because this didn't work? Because I believe anything is fixable. I have so many tools over the last 20 years that I feel like I can fix anything. So if I can't fix this, what does that mean about me? Right? So then I thought, okay, well, at some point, I did my law of attraction practices, one of which I do a journal, a gratitude journal, or appreciation, because the word appreciation actually is a lot higher vibrating and cleaner than gratitude. But so I was doing my appreciation journal, and I would do like what, every night, what it is that I appreciate about what happened that day. But then I'd also do another list of the things that I knew. And here's really the truth of law of attraction. It's what you believe. And if you're saying something you don't believe, it doesn't matter what tone you say it in. It doesn't matter if there's a smile on your face. You can dance around. If you don't believe it, it's not coming true. So I actually believed 100% that I could have the kind of relationship that I wanted to have. I knew I could have it. And I also knew that if I just got out of the way, that the path of least resistance would show up for me. And so I really believed it was going to come out of my husband. I thought for sure, because I had seen evidence of it, that I got into a frequency. I was disconnected from any negativity that was going on with him. I'm super vibrating in like a great place. I create my own reality, and I'd watch him raise. I'd watch things happen. I kept seeing evidence of it. I'm like, okay, great. I'm just going to keep doing this. And I did it. And when I looked at my journal and I kept saying, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want. And I really, truly, deeply believed and knew nobody wants this more than me. I want this and I'm going to get it. And then at some point I got a hit that, this relationship's not going to change the way that we are right now. And I've met people that have had relationships where they have separated and then cleared some space and some air, done a state change, and then allowed each person to raise and then reconnect. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. The day came and I surrendered and I said, no, now is the time. And so I asked him, hey, do you want to be married anymore? Knowing he didn't, and there's a whole backstory to this, but that I tell my podcast. If you want to listen, come listen to my podcast.
Yes, podcasts are awesome.
So he said, and I watched, I don't know if I told that part, but because I have to, watch what I say. But basically, he said, well, I don't think it should be so hard. And I said, I understand. And we had a conversation, but at that moment I surrendered. And that was the thing. See, perfectionism is about control. And the more you control, the more you disallow what is best for you. You disallow what universe, God, source, vibration, whatever you want to say, you are always asking, like Morgana was talking about the slingshot, right? The slingshot is that you want this so badly, but until you surrender and let go of that, you stop your own momentum. You're in a negative momentum versus allowing things to come in that will actually get you what you want. So here I am, and I surrender in trust, knowing that I just know that something's going to shift. I'm thinking path of least resistance is going to be my husband. And then 2 hours later, I get a text message from a former client, and only you two know kind of the story, but so I get a text message from a client and a friend who says, hey, I need to chat. Are you available? And I said, yeah, let me give you a call. I said, no, don't call me. I've been crying too much. I said, what's going on? He goes, my wife left me today. I said, interesting, there's something in the air. My relationship just went, I just got separated about 2 hours ago. He's like, what? And so we started to talk. And now we're a couple. And he's a soulmate, and it aligned in the most perfect way. Like all the things that I wrote down that I wanted, that is him without me. And like, if you had to look like name your perfect situation, like what would that really look like? It's that. Because all the things that I said that I would want that I'd never like try to make someone fit in, fits. So I went from, oh my gosh, am I going to be a fraud because I'm letting go of a relationship that I haven't been able to fix? And maybe people won't think that I'm any good at law of attraction. And then like 2 hours later, the universe literally, once I released what I was holding on to with like this, going, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix this. The minute I surrendered, I was like, oh, like it was super clear. I'm like, this is super clear that you've been waiting to align this situation for me. And this is for my highest and greatest good.
So yay, applause. Okay, so great. I don't even know where to start because there are so many things I want to say right now. Okay, and we don't have a ton of time for this, but first of all, awesome story. Now, I can imagine hearing this story and going, okay, sure, it all turned out perfectly for you. And yet, what I want to call attention to is that moment where you had no idea whether it was going to turn out perfectly for you. In fact, you were deep in the worry that it was not, deep in the worry that not only your relationship was going to go, but your professional credibility was like, the point is you didn't know how it was going to show up.
No.
You didn't know how it was going to roll out. And I think that's such a huge piece with the perfectionism is letting go of the how. And one of the reasons we have a really hard time letting go of the how is we're not adequately clear about the why. And we're not adequately clear about the who we are in the matter of it, right? So it's like, I mean, there's even, I'm just going so transparent with you guys, like even in the process of putting together this show, right? There were all these ways in which I had to let go and trust that the team I had put in place was gonna get it, right? And put it together, and they did, and here we are, right? And it's like, but it was so challenging, that moment, and I feel like it's a similar to the moment you're describing that I know everyone can relate to, whether it's in a moment in the relationship, in their business, in their body, in their family, and moving at home, or whatever it might be, that we don't know how it's actually going to look. We don't know exactly, we don't know whether we're gonna be okay, right? Like, was there, I mean, I know that you've got the law of attraction thing in a way that you're gonna, but wasn't there like a little bit of, is this going to be okay?
Okay, so that's the belief situation, right? So the whole point of law of attraction in this situation, or in any situation, is that I did truly deeply believe I'd get what I wanted. Okay. What I let go of is me deciding how I was going to get it. Okay. Was I looking for it to be somebody else? No. Yeah. I literally just thought that the path of least resistance was the person I was with. Not that I was attached to that, because part of me was a little bit like, okay, because again, like I said in the beginning of this, everything you think you want is because you think you'll feel better when you have it.
Right.
But you have to feel better first to allow it in, and you don't even need the thing. So I got to the place of saying, if I get what I want, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Because it's the feeling that I'm searching for. Right. It's the trust. And I do have such a deep belief and relationship with my source and with life in general and what I think the unfolding is in my purposes. So that there's a level of when you're not sure, then yeah, you second guess everything. And people used to think I have control issues, and maybe I did. Maybe people still think I do, but I really don't have control issues. In that because you have to be able to
no, I get that. I do get that, because like as we work together, I've literally put myself in a position where it's like, tell me what to do, right? But at the same time, I totally get that. As passionate as you are and as incredibly strong as your opinions are, and I freaking get it, because I have the world's strongest opinions as well. I get that you're not attached. Like I can do it or not. You're not going to like sleep worse at night if I don't do my exercises, right? Like I totally get that. You're bringing everything you've got to the table, and however it goes, it goes.
But I will say that I had to learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in working with people, I'm sure as we all have, you in the beginning, you're learning about you. Everything's a mirror to what's going on for you. And if I'm attached to what your results are and making that mean something about me, then that's about me.
Right.
But so that's the work I've been doing over the last 14 years to heal my need for your approval, your results to make me look better. Right. There's the perfectionist, like, again, it's an illusion. It's an illusion.
So good. So we're going to cut to our break in just a moment, but I always love to know, I always love to go nuts and bolts and give people something that they can do right now. So you've had this 14-year journey. So if I were to come to you, and some audience member, we probably have some questions about this, to come to you and say, okay, I get what you're saying. I believe you. And where I am is, I don't know how to make myself believe anything other than what I believe. And what I believe right now is my life is unmanageable, right? What I believe right now is I can't get happy in my relationship. What I believe right now is I can't make money. Right? I can't relax, right? Like, I don't know how to not believe that. That's just what's showing up as real.
Okay.
How does that person start?
You start by, especially if you're a perfectionist, stop thinking. All right, because that's, you're trying
That's the thing I really can't do.
You're trying to figure it out, yet this is still going, right? So the first thing you do is first of all, the vibration of the solution is in a different place than the problem.
Right.
So I don't care how much you think about it or strategize about it, depends on how you feel about it. So stop thinking, stop feeling. And in fact, the best thing for people like that to do is to completely go in an opposite direction. Go dancing, go on a vacation, stop and let go, surrender, because in the surrendering, like I get my best downloads and answers to questions when I'm rollerblading on the beach, listening to music. All of a sudden I get ideas. I'm like, oh, that's the answer to that, because I'm not focused on it. Because when you're focused on it, you're still vibrating in a place of this isn't good, I have to figure this out, but your answer's not there. Your answer's up here.
Can't solve the problem in the energy,
So,
the energy of the solution.
That is why when people go on vacation, they feel better, they heal themselves, they make more money, things just show up for you because you're detached from it. You've removed the energetic resistance you have to allowing things to come to you. So get into your body, go on a vacation, really play more. Get happy, however you need to get happy. Stop thinking about it, detach, move away from it, shut down, power down, take a nap. Take a nap, okay? And then when you wake up, before you dive right into the worry, like sit and do something that is going to put music on. That's another one. Music and dancing is so powerful to get your frequency to change. Put on your top 3 or 4 favorite songs the first thing in the morning. You don't even have to do any work. Your body will want to move. You'll be in a good mood, and then you just have to milk that and stay there.
It's so funny that you say music and dance, because of course, as a musician, where a lot of my professional stress lived in whatever music I was making, that was the last freaking thing I could do to de-stress, was listen to music, because it just immediately got like sucked into the meat grinder of all the shit I was doing wrong. So I couldn't like even do that. But my version of that was trashy sitcoms from my childhood. The sounds of the voices of those familiar characters and the dorky music underneath it it was like my friends were having a party in the other room, and I could just like chill out and do whatever I was doing. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much, JJ. That's super helpful. You're gonna have more talk time, I promise, in our final hour. And we're gonna come back. We're gonna have everybody take a little break right now. We're gonna welcome Stacy. So thank you guys so much again. Thank you for that practice again, Lisa. So we'll see you back here in about 8 to 10 minutes. And I'm gonna welcome Stacy back and just move over here. And you guys just tell me if I'm in the right camera, seat, etc. Good, thumbs up, awesome. Stacy. So before I would love to like hand off to you again, and also chat first. I was very excited to see you just nodding vigorously and laughing and all of that. So I think there's probably a lot for us to talk about there. Before we go to that, I want to just let everybody know, by the way, JJ's bonus in the VIP lounge is an actual live free session with her. Like you actually get to talk to her, right? And you get private time with her, where you can talk about any number of things. It's like calibrate health and relationship kind of thing. So if you want to go deep into body, workout, fitness, diet, image, like you can do just that full workup with her, where you can be like, I just want to be like integrated and feel good in my body and have my body look or feel a particular way. She is an expert at that. I have literally hired her to do that myself. Or you can go into the relationship space, and you heard that incredible story. Like, she is tuned in when it comes to relationships.
That's amazing.
And love and empowerment and all the rest of that. So she has so generously offered her time. Are we on this camera or this camera? We are there. Thank you. So generously offered her time for an actual session. So when you come into the VIP lounge, you get that. So once again, freedomforperfectionists.com for anybody who's on Facebook. And for those of you who are on the webinar, I need to copy that link into the chat, which I am actually going to do on this break. But meanwhile, if you are interested in the VIP pass, I want you to type in VIP or interested into the chat momentarily. In fact, right now, just hop on and type that, and we will make sure that you get an invitation to the VIP lounge, okay? And once again, I want to let you know that 50% of the proceeds of every VIP pass goes to the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, which once again funds scientists. It funds actual studies, it funds actual scientists. So it's kind of the best of all possible worlds, because the problems that they're solving are real problems. Like 1 in 4 women are on antidepressants right now in the States, right? And somebody you know is suffering from or has suffered from depression or anxiety, OCD. Like when we talk about perfectionism, there's the stuff where it's kind of surface day to day, and then there's the stuff where it goes deeper. And we live with a lot of undiagnosed stuff in our society right now, and we want to make a difference with what we're doing here. And sometimes you need more. Sometimes you need more help, more support. Sometimes you need something that is more in the medical, psychological, behavioral space. And the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation is doing that work. So you get to help solve a problem. You get to be a philanthropist and be donating significantly to this cause. And I encourage you to step into the VIP lounge with us and go deeper with us. So freedomforperfectionists.com. If you already registered and you're in the webinar, we're going to paste a link in about 2 minutes, but please let us know that you're interested, because I'll come up with something even more special for the people who type in VIP or interested into the chat or into the Q&A. Actually do it into the Q&A. And with that, I would love to turn, speaking of PhDs and psychological help, right?
Sure.
I would love, so let me ask, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I know you're just going to be able to riff on it for the next 5 minutes. If you were to take this research that you've done on MIPE and MISOR and these archetypes and these ways that we want to help women integrate in, literally pick up the crown, right?
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively pick up the crown,
Yes.
right? To step into our sovereignty.
Yeah.
And how is it that you most want to move forward with this work in the world? Like, who do you want to talk to? Who do you, like, if somebody's sitting here going, okay, I'm interested, I'm curious, I certainly want to have sovereignty in my life, right? I certainly want to pick up the crown in my life. Like, what are ways that they can? Either just right now, starting now, right? What can they read? What can they do? Or what are the ways that you would be working with people to do that? And in fact, what are the ways you already have, in the sense that that's what brought you here, right? That's what put you into this research.
Yeah. So I've been doing this research for 5 years. It didn't start out with the intention of working towards this goal, but it really was a kind of a watershed moment for me. And I realized that every woman needs to integrate those 2 halves of herself, because we all have them. And the first step is to figure out which version of this archetype do I live with. Am I a MIPE or am I a MISOR? Do I live that magical, isolated, enchanted, and endangered life all the time, where I'm always have power, I always have money, I always have, I always have that thing that I need that makes me feel like I'm engaged in life, but I'm always kind of on the side. I'm always kind of on the margin. I'm always kind of over here. I mean, I might have my tribe, but I'm always
It's like Janine was talking about, that there's sort of codependence comes out of that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or do I always kind of fit in? I'm always a nice girl. Everybody sees me as receptive, but I never quite have enough power. Am I that girl? And my house might be perfectly clean all the time and beautiful, and my children are perfect. My husband just always praises to everyone I'm perfect. But inside I might be withering because there's some song in me that is desperate to be sung. Which one are you? That's the MISOR side, right? She's got plenty of protection. She's got plenty of relationships, no power. Or are you MIPE? Are you magical? Do you have knowledge and power? But nobody really wants to engage you to bring you in. And depending on which one of those you are, you have to engage the other side, and that is the hardest part, because as women we're brought up with this thing that you're one or the other. You're going to be in one side, you're going to be in the other. And when you're a little girl or you're a teenager, you are the worst, right? Everybody's seen Mean Girls, or you know what that's like.
Right.
You're taught to ostracize that other part. It doesn't matter which side you're on, you ostracize the other side.
Yeah.
And by doing that, what happens internally from an archetypal point of view is you push that side of yourself away. And so what happens is you set up a struggle, an internal struggle, so that there's always this internal dialogue all the time. I can never be that other thing. I'm always reaching, always stretching, there's always something that I'm not. There's always some piece of me that is not complete.
Yeah.
And so it sets up this dualistic structure internally where we never, ever get to be done.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I do.
So I'm going to ask you to share
Yeah.
with our audience
Mhm.
some of the ways that you have engaged these healing practices for yourself.
Absolutely.
Ways that you have.
Yeah.
Talk to them about
So,
that.
all right, sounds
In a
good.
moment.
So I, as Deborah was saying earlier, I'm kind of the typical Mipe woman. I'm magical, isolated, powerful, and endangered. As she mentioned when she introduced me, I ran a coven for women who identified themselves as witches. That is absolutely my space, right? So magic is my space, knowledge is my space. If you give me something to engage with, a book, something to learn, I'm all over it. My big struggle, and I find that a lot of women who are looking for belonging find the same thing. My big struggle is trying to see where I can have relationships, where I can engage in that space. And so the way to do that is not the way that I would normally do it. I have to find the balance in the other side. So my magical, isolated, powerful, endangered has to be receptive. I have to engage that power of reception. I have to say, okay, where is my receptive side in this? Where do I get to be in that place where I'm finding a moment of receptivity, where I'm allowing? Is there a place to allow? A great example, I was at a conference this week, and I get nervous because I'm so used to being the outsider. I'm so used to being the girl who's, going to be pushed out, or I'm going to be the girl who's like a little too loud, or maybe she's, she comes off wrong because I'm that Mipe girl. I'm always the one on the outside. And so I found myself like struggling with that, and I had to be receptive. I had to sit back, find myself in that moment, and listen to what other people were saying. I had to hear other people's points of view. I had to not assume that my position was going to be the one that had the power in the circumstance. I had to assume that there was something in the exchange that needed my attention, but also needed other people's point of view, that my receptivity actually made room for other people. So that was me trying to find that balance between the Mipe and the Misor, right? Similarly, I had a client, super Misor client. She's a teacher. You're going to find, oh my God, so many people who have that Misor energy are drawn to professions like being a teacher, being a therapist, being a minister, being a nurse. Like Misor people kind of tend to be in this position where they let other people take the lead, and they're receptive. So wonderful client, super amazing teacher, wins all kinds of awards. Students love her. And she's got this brilliant idea. She's got this brilliant idea for this engaging program about helping kids in the inner city. And she's been working on it for 7 years. 7 years she's working on this program. The whole thing, curriculum's built, she's got everything done, videos are done, books done, websites done, hasn't launched. Hasn't launched a thing, hasn't talked to anybody. Nothing has happened. And why? Because she is so afraid of leaving that bubble of all the protection that she benefits from by living in that Misor place. So she has the protection of being in her relationships. She's afraid to break out of that little bubble and launch into that Mipe world of kind of planting her flag and saying, no, I have knowledge, I have awareness. So what she can do is she needs to use her Misor skills, right? Befriend someone who can help her stand in that place. She needs to be a little more Mipe, assert her authority, be like, no, I know this. Her tendency has been to this point in talking to people about her new program has been to say, oh, here's all the data. Here's why we need this. She's giving her reasons. She's giving all of the the relationship reasons for creating it, right? That's not what's gonna work. What's gonna work is standing in her power and saying, I'm the authority. I have been doing this job for 12 years. I'm the one who has been sitting in the classroom with these kids for 12 years listening to their problems. I'm the one who can tell you that they are in need. And I have been the one to develop a program that helps them find their way back to feeling authentic, to feeling like they can control their feelings, like they don't have to be engaged in maybe things that aren't really good for them, so that they can be present in school and do their work. So she's been going about, her whole thing has been, she's been doing it the Miso way the whole time. So, you know, those are some very practical steps, right? These are finding the opposite ways. I'm writing a book. I'm hoping that I can get more women to tell me their stories about this, because so far I've been finding it in this archetypal realms. So I'd love to hear stories from people. If you can find me online if you want at stacysimmons.net. I'd love to hear your stories. But more than that, look around you. Who are the resources available to you? Do you find that the women that you associate with are more like you? What do you have in common with them? Do you have more Mike qualities together? If you do, if you are magical, isolated, powerful, and endangered together, then you need to then think about ways that you can be more resourceful in the other dimension. Can you be more in search of relationship, acquiescent? Where can you be passive? Where does it feel okay to be passive? Where can you allow? Where can you surrender? Because the thing that we were talking about earlier about the prayer of wholeness, that's the same thing that we're talking about here. Being united in finding that way that you can bring together the whole being of who you are is the same song, whether we're talking about doing it in meditation with those 4 elements, or we're talking about being able to bring together those 2 halves of the Mike and the Miso and sovereignty, so that you have wholeness, so that you have full control over who you are. Because when you're divided against yourself, then you're always right to be divided, period. You're always going to have this opportunity for somebody to exploit that division. And that's really, for me, what my work is. It's about saying, okay, sovereignty is about being whole unto yourself, with no one telling you who or what you are or who or what you can be. Not even old ideas about who's perfect, who's not perfect. I have to live up to some standard. No, it's who you define yourself and how you define yourself to be right now.
Excellent. Okay, don't go anywhere. Okay. Because we're going to come back in a second. But I first want to ground all of this incredible, lofty, deep knowledge in some real life stuff. Yeah. Right. So I want to talk about a little bit some of the steps that you personally have taken. Right. And I know that you are now creating an entire new body of work. You're transitioning into a new space. So this is like super raw and real. So you guys, like, I've watched Stacy go through all of these different places in life, where different career additions, right? Yeah. Different relationship additions. I still want to go play with your horses where you are. She's got horses. It's like really cool. But so I know that we have people here who are watching this, whether they're with us live or whether they're watching later, who are kind of looking at some of this and going, all right, I know you're talking about I can start where I am, and I could do something as simple as dance to a song I like, or take a nap, or take a bath. But like, honestly, that's not going to fix my life. What's going to fix my life is doing it, like all the stuff. I need $1 million. I need a better marriage. I need a better gig. I need to, get out of my head where I'm stuck and overwhelmed or distracted. And I need to actually take the steps into the life I want. Yeah. And I don't know how to do that. And I'm scared, and I feel, confused, and I want it to be great, and I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And I would love for you to address some of that in terms of where you have known that you don't have it all figured out in advance. You don't know how it's going to look, but you knew you needed a change, or you knew that you needed to take care of some part of you that was not being taken care of. And I would leave it open to you, because I could pick and choose from the things that I can think of. But,
you're welcome to pick one. But
I mean, for example, moving from New Orleans to Los Angeles, or moving your horses, or any of the various stages of your marriage, if you want to talk about that, or starting a coven, right? Yeah. Like, what the heck had you start a coven? Let's start there for a second. And we're going to bring everybody back in just about 2 minutes, but let's talk about being a witch.
So they're actually all very very similar. They
Yeah.
actually are all very similar.
There we go.
So it really has been about walking in the dark, learning to be comfortable walking in the dark, and not having a picture of what the answer is supposed to look like, which goes directly to perfection, right? Because so Coven, Los Angeles is kind of similar. So I'm going to go with Los Angeles because it's more recent. And when
If you guys want to know more about Stacy being a witch and about a coven, then type it in the chat and the questions. Okay, go ahead.
So there's this whole thing about, when I call the priestess journey, that you get stripped away. The things that are not you get stripped away from you. You have to find your authenticity, right? And so for me, I'd kind of strayed away from being a witch and had gotten this very successful, powerful academic career at this big state university, and I'd done all these really amazing things. I'd been in past companies, 100 most creative people in business, and I'd done all this stuff, and I was, living this high life, and it all came crashing down because it was completely inauthentic. None of it was real. None of it was me. I really wanted it to be me, but it was not. None of it was me.
Pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Anybody able to relate to that? Anyone able to relate to that?
Yeah. Imagine me as a software mogul. Can you do that?
Knowing
me?
Not imagining you living any part of that
Right.
happily. No.
Exactly. You've known me for a long time. I can't. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to do. And so it wasn't right, and it cost me big time. Cost me my house. Cost me $1 million. Like, it cost me my investors. Like, it was done. And I was in my beautiful plantation home with my horses and my dogs and 4,000 square feet on 6 acres and gorgeous. And I was about to lose everything. Called up a friend of mine and said, I'm thinking of moving back to LA, and I'm applying for this job at the Academy. I know you're a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Can you help me? And he was like, yes. And he happened to know the guy who had the job. And he's like, he's actually a jerk. But I have a job. Will you come work for me? And I was like, sure. It's like, pay is crap. I'm like, I got nothing else. So moved back to LA, wound up in school. And the whole time I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea. I'm walking in the dark. I'm just listening. And it wasn't like, Stacy, do this. It was, keep going. And it was so small. It was this little piece of me that was just like, you just got to take that next step. Just the next step. You don't have to just stop looking up. Like, you don't need to know what's down there. It's not, because it's not going to be there. You're not going to see it. You can't see it. You're creating it. You can't see it because you're creating it.
Oh, that's really good. You can't see it because you're creating it. Right? I love that.
Yeah.
It's
on you. You're the creatrix.
Yeah.
You're it.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
yeah. So you can't see it. So that was it.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
And so here we are.
Who even knows what's next, right? You're creating something even as we speak.
I'm creating something as we speak. It's a book called Crowned: From Divided Woman to United Queen. It's a whole educational program with that, and it's about uniting these halves of the divided woman, because we're given this thing when we're little girls that tells us that we have to be perfect, we have to be beautiful, we have to be smart, we have to be everything, and none of us can do it. And we're put on a track. We don't have a lot of choices.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, sweetheart. So great to see you. Thank you for being with us here today. I would like to invite my goddesses back so that we can now jump into I can't believe we're already here at our final segment. Thank you again, Stacy. And we're gonna hand in some stuff around Stacy. We're gonna get links. We're gonna get stuff going on. You will be able to get Stacy's book. Stacy is going to be doing some events in the near future, and I'm getting hand signals that I don't understand. I'm going to be honest about that. So as far as I know, we are jumping back into our segment. We're good with everybody? Awesome. Fantastic. Hi, welcome back, goddesses.
Hello.
Hi. All right, so a little bit of catch up before we go to audience questions. We did not get a chance to talk about your free gift, and I shouldn't even call it a free gift. It is the bonus offer that's part of the VIP pass. So thank you guys so much. I love that I saw so many comments saying VIP and interested, and I did post the link so that you can go check out that page and read more about the bonuses, read more about the donation and how that works. So you can all grab that, but I encourage you to grab that at 3:30 Pacific and catch the rest of this conversation. No, I'm like, go get it anytime you want. Just get it anytime you want. But meanwhile, this is what happens when you join us in the VIP lounge. what happens with Janine. What have you offered us today? It's like a full scholarship
So
to,
I'm
incredible.
offering a full scholarship to How To School.
Amazing.
How To School is a 12-week small group coaching program where I've put together a collection of pre-recorded coaching videos that talk to women specifically about how to do things, how to be happy, how to have a difficult conversation, how to set up boundaries, how to connect and do intimacy with someone one-on-one. And so it's a list of topics that I cover with practice, exercises associated that you need to actually do and go and be a part of in order to actually do what we were talking about earlier, which is the embodiment piece that a lot of people who are struggling with perfectionism and people pleasing and approval addictions have not actually practiced, particularly in relationship to people in their families, in their romantic lives, and just in their sister circle as well.
Yeah. Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay, that is, and this is like over the course of something like 16 weeks.
It's 12 weeks.
12
so
weeks.
what
Got it.
people will get is 24 pre-recorded coaching sessions that they'll get. We'll roll them out on Sundays and Tuesdays when you sign up.
Got it.
And they'll come to your inbox. You'll be able to go to click the link, go to a private site that is password protected, watch the video, get the assignment, the call to action of what to do that day, so that you can create a collection of practices for embodiment and for checking out of your head and what we were talking about earlier, and be out in your world creating different beliefs and different behaviors.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. So, and my bonus, which you can totally read about on the VIP page, is I put together a Summit All-Stars package. So I love Summits. Summits are like my thing now. I freaking love them. I get so lit up with the interviews that I do with people, and these two both Summit experts for me, and it's really tremendous to, and I forget who was talking about it, but meeting, like you did, meeting the mentors, right? And they become your colleagues. And there's an incredible give and take that happens. And something I think also with perfectionists, we tend to really think in hierarchy, right? We tend to stratify who's higher, who's lower, who's better, who's worse, who's richer, who's poorer, right? And it has been truly a revelation for me coming out of show business where things are very stratified, very hierarchical. Like, don't call me a designer if I'm a creator, don't call me a supervisor if I'm a director, right? It's these sorts of things, and it matters, and it's a super tight world. And to step into a world where it's like, I might hire you, you might hire me, you know, I paid Morgana a bunch of money to go to Bali earlier this year, right? And worth every penny, by the way. We're going to talk a little bit about your Bali retreats, you know, and also she's a colleague, and also she's a friend. And, you know, there's just this incredible shifting, moving, ebbing and flowing. You're talking about seasons. We'll get back to that in a second, where it's like, what is the most magical, powerful, empowered, and empowering connection that there can be right now? And money shows up differently in different times. Positions and relationships show up differently at different times. And so all of that to say that there are people who I was wide-eyed, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to be interviewing, who are now my colleagues. And I pulled the top 12, my favorite 12 interviews of the 68 or whatever it was that I did in the course of all of those summits, and put them together into an all-star package. You literally cannot get this anywhere. I do occasionally have bonus summit packages where you can buy a particular summit, but I do not have this lineup of 12 interviews, which were my top rock stars, anywhere else. I put it together especially for this show. I put it together especially for this tribe. So you get that with the VIP bonus pass, and that is the Freedom for Perfectionists Summit All-Stars pass. So that is the 5 bonuses, which are just, I mean, like mind-blowing. Like, I'm gonna be diving into all of these bonuses and have a much better life over the next couple of months for sure. And now we're gonna get a chance to talk through a bunch of this different stuff. So I just wanna invite each of you to jump in absolutely any moment, because I will tend to fill the space. So feel free to jump in, but I'm gonna say, it's just, you know, it's the gig, what can I say? So the couple of things that I do want to talk about though, Andrea, do we have that slide ready to go? So something that I would love to jump into, and you spoke about this a little bit, and we really talked to it, we spoke to it in a bunch of different things. We have, I believe, a slide up that's super fun to watch.
Oh, I have
the
that.
left brain, right brain slide, right? I am left brain, I am right brain. This is something that I actually open most of my presentations with when I'm talking to perfectionists, specifically when I'm talking about getting out of procrastination and into creative flow, right? To make the thing, write the song, write the book, do the thing that you're not doing because you think you got to be doing all that other stuff, or you think you're not good enough. And so I would love to open the floor to left brain, right brain discussion. And I'll just open it by saying, I love my left brain. I do. I freaking love it. And it served me so well in so many ways. And it is my mortal fucking enemy, right? You know, so I would love to hear your thoughts on the beauties and validities of each of the hemispheres and how they help us in terms of breaking through the barriers out of perfectionism and into a life we actually want.
Okay. First of all, yeah, I'm just like so.
And we can pull that slide now so we can see everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so relieved to have JJ speaking for Law of Attraction and representing both science of the left brain and intuition, which is my experience of the right brain, because I think without both, you either live a very dry, colorless, frustrating life, or you're crazy. And you need both. I had a catastrophic car accident when I was 16 that damaged this part of my brain, the language center. So I went from like straight A student to not being able to read a page and remember what I read. And falling asleep all the time, and then struggling to graduate from high school, to go to college, while my brain, fortunately, there's nothing better than struggling academically to like heal the brain, honestly. But what happened during that period, which was really dark, and I was suicidal for about 18 months, was my intuition woke up in like a crazy, not insane, but hyperbolic, just like I knew things. I knew what somebody was going to say. When one person asked me to guess a number between 1 and 1,000 and I got it, I freaked her the fuck out. I knew I was going to drop an F-bomb.
Yay,
the first
Yay.
Yeah,
now I curse like a
so, and these are gifts, you know, that we get to keep. The worst thing that ever happens to you, look for the gift, and you will always find a gift. Something that I like to say, because I, like you, Russian, Jew, and Irish, I can talk forever. To wrap it up, your brain, and I love science, and I love brains. I was raised by lawyers and rocket scientists, no joke. And in terms of life, our brain, our conscious mind will only get us so far. Get out of your brain and get into your body. Your body tells you the truth. When you can quiet your anxiety and, you know, soothe and quiet your amygdala and your limbic brain and the reptile frightened survivor brain.
Don't change, don't die.
Your frontal lobe, when you relax, your frontal lobe wakes up, and that's where all of your brilliance, your creativity, your problem solving, your genius zone is. That's the science behind like what we're all saying in our different ways.
That's beautiful. I love that. You want to talk a little bit more about left brain, right brain?
Well, so I am like you in
Yeah.
that I love my left brain too.
Yeah.
Right. But as Morgana was saying, that only gets us so far, and our left brain actually represents a lot of the time what we can control. But the beauty in life and the beauty, the magic about that is all the things that we don't have control over, that is accessible to us at all times to tap into, that we cut ourselves off from because we're trying so hard in our myopic way to control so many things.
Yes, yes.
And we are a beating heart. We are a vibratory being that is full of energy. And while the brain does influence how we feel, we're still always feeling, and that's the majority of us. So this, while I love it too, is really a way to sort of stop you from co-creating with what you want and letting the magic of life happen. The reason why people think when they get into doing certain law of attraction practices that are magic is because things that you didn't even ask for out loud show up for you when you get out of the way, because you're not trying to control it with your brain on how much to do that. So we all want more magic. So we all have to shut this down a little bit and start trusting this. I think for a lot of people, you know, people think that depression is really a chemical thing. And there are really like 3 types of depression. And the chemical one, honestly, is the least one that we have. Most of our depression is creative repression and situational depression, on misinterpreting a situation and making it mean something about ourselves. But generally, it's all of this creative repression, that emotional, you know, embodiment of things that we're trying not to feel because it's not being clean, not know what to do with it, and a lack of trust. So I think that you know, and some people, like, okay, so then we bring astrology into this a little bit, which I'm not gonna go down that path, but let's just say for a second, you know, there are signs that are more loving their left brain and some that are more loving their right brain. And we have people who are like ADD and right, and can't focus on things, and so they're more in their right brain, right? So there's a way to work with whatever you are. And usually the one that you love the most is the one you can just let go of for a little bit, right? You're not diving into the one that, you know, if you're someone who resists structure, finding a way to make peace with structure. If you're someone who resists expression, or sitting still, or shutting up, or not control, like, you're only ever going to find peace by making peace with whatever that is.
Putting that down for a second.
Yeah.
Totally get it. You know, there's an element of the analysis of things that makes perfectionists feel like if I can just understand it perfectly, then I will feel better, right? It's like you said, you want the thing because of how it's going to make you feel. Right, so we want the complete analysis, the complete factual rundown, everything in a spreadsheet, so that we can feel safe, right? So that we can feel better, so that we can like let go. And I think there is really something really valuable about saying, okay, just let go, period, and then notice how incredible things can show up, right? And maybe everything doesn't roll out exactly the way you thought it would, but notice where you are as opposed to where you would have been had you stayed in that micromanaging, controlling kind of place. Right.
So can we just talk about real quick, like how, you know, to me, when I hear the word perfectionism, again, to me, that just means control issues.
Yeah.
And trust, and like where, okay, I don't know how else to say this in a, I don't mean this in a negative way, but who do we all think we are that we can control everything in the world? Like,
no, we can't control anything.
Right, exactly. So that's like it's an illusion that you think you even can control it to a certain degree, right?
We can control two things, and I learned this from Liana Silver, which is how I met Lisa. We can control the quality of our attention and where we place that attention. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we can actually control. My God, do we want to control a whole lot more than that? And my God, do we try?
But the logic mind can say, okay, if all I can control are my focus, and for maybe your thoughts and the interpretation of whatever you're observing, if you know that that's all you literally can control scientifically, why wouldn't that feel better to like let go of everything else? Because that's like science. That's all you can control.
You know, this is where I jump in. So I'll drop some F-bombs here.
Yeah.
So my F-bombs are fault, frustration, and failure. So as girls, we are socialized into the idea that we need to control and that we need to be leaders and show up in a very specific way that's performative, that's full of falsehoods, that creates a facade. And so undoing that really, really strong line of rhetoric that comes from society, it comes from parents, it comes from religious institutions, it comes from schools, is a lot of work. It's not that easy to just say, why wouldn't you want to give up control? We don't, because we don't know if we can trust the other way. And we don't have an idea around how it makes sense that something magical could happen if we stop thinking about it and if we stop planning for it and organizing it and stressing out about it, when all we have been told since the time we were placed here is that in order for you to be successful in so many different ways, you've got to take control. You've got to be a planner, a logical, rational person. You've got to do it this way. There is a right way. There's so much shaming that's involved in our socialization in terms of ways that we are developing into codependent, approval addicted, people pleasing perfectionists that, you know, we feel like we are at fault if things don't work out a certain way when we've been using our left brain so passionately for so long. We're thinking a lot about that scenario and that formula. You know, I'm at fault if the formula isn't working. I feel frustrated because of the lack of control that I actually have. I don't know if I can create a relationship with intuition and inspiration, all these feminine constructs that are really, really demonized in our hyper-masculinist and patriarchal society. So there's all kinds of ways that we feel like we are failing over and over and over again. It just inspires us to do more work, to work harder at thinking clearly. Something's wrong with our processing is what we say. And so when a bunch of women who have created these revelations and these revolutions in their lives come into the conversation and say, stop thinking, give up control, stop being a perfectionist, and then get into your body, be creative, be expressive, tap into your gut, trust your intuitive sense, it's really difficult.
Yes, you know what?
We really need compassion and patience with each other. We need to really be supportive in our sacred circles of sisters because we shame each other and our selves again and again and again and again, that actually creates regression.
Absolutely. I want to pick up on something you said, but Morgana has something to say.
Talk.
Go.
You brought up the most important stuff. We didn't learn the self-blame in a vacuum. We are taught and told and reinforced every moment of every day that if we are sexually assaulted, raped, attacked, it is our fault. What we wore, what we drank, what we did, what we didn't do.
What
No
you're wearing,
matter
what did you say?
And we're told that even from close family members. So we did not invent this, and we need so much kindness and love for like our inner judge who's trying to keep us safe. The key to everything is, I think, just to love all these parts of us, including the perfectionist, who is trying so hard on our behalf, not to make any of them wrong, but to love so that we can get their message, so that they can quiet down and we can take over again.
All of the Supremes in the Supreme Love Project who are watching this right now know what I'm about to say. The fragmented, disowned, orphaned, and wounded parts of ourselves are literally rising up to be healed over and over and over and over again by the powerful I-centeredness in Supreme Love identity that's sitting on a throne. If you can form relationship through your interior life with all of those parts of yourself that have a petition, that have a protest, that have an accusation, that have a judgment, that have a condemnation, that have an argument, if you can develop your language as a spirit to engage with your soul and your somatic space in ways that are meaningful and deeply seated, then you can relax. then you can let go. Then you can trust what you're saying, that, oh, I can trust my gut. I can trust my intuitive self. If you suspend a villain and victim conversation inside of yourself, that's where magic can really, really happen.
That's awesome. I want to say one quick thing, which is that what I heard incredibly powerfully in what you were saying, and thank you for that, because like that's so important right now. Yeah, absolutely. What I was hearing and what you were saying is, in that left brain, right brain, and it's so incredibly powerful and important that we actually do say, yes, I understand. It's not like, voila, look, I put down control and everything's amazing, right? Like, no, we must have compassion and patience for those feelings that arise in us. And one of the ways that I'm seeing the distinction is like, understand that the analytical left brain, in addition to being protective and fearful and all of that, is simply taking what's given to it, right? It's taking what's given to it by the right brain, another stimuli, but by the right brain. And so when you're looking at, but if I put down control, then I won't be able to decide how it goes. To be able to lean into the creativity and the generativity of the right brain. The right brain is actually what comes up with stuff. The right brain is actually what creates. The right brain is actually what has the poetry and the images and the color and the dreams and the passions. It just doesn't have the words, right? So it's like, it's our job, like you said, to get out of the way. It's our job to take the left brain analyst, right? And set that analyst aside as a judge and bring it in merely as an interpreter. What is the right brain saying? What am I generating? What do I desire? Okay, let me put words on that. Now I can maybe relax about all that other stuff that's going on and see, like you said, fastest way out of procrastination is desire, and see, this is what I want. This is what I care about. Okay, I can let go a little and just try out that if I'm super passionate about this and I tell somebody, the world won't fall apart. Right? Like, does that make sense? Yeah, awesome. Okay, do you want to jump in about left brain, right brain?
I want to just add another lensing and frame, and it would be lunar and solar. So we're talking a lot about right and left brain. We're also, this is very yin and yang conversation, of course. We're talking about
this cannot be more perfect because I'm about to get into masculine and feminine, so go.
Beautiful. that at least in my teachings, we look a lot at the lunar and the solar energy, and so that kind of helps. I know for me a lot, because at least in our culture, we've got a lot of baggage around gender associations with masculine and feminine. But when we think about all of us having lunar and solar energy, a lot of what we're speaking about here, I feel like, is that more solar energy. It's bold, it's really bright, it's very penetrating, it's fiery, it's got rays, right? I mean, it's very extroverted, and it's, you know, that a lot of this is coming from headquarters. Headquarters is more important in the culture than the gut, you know, in the more the lunar realms, you know, the moon, the lunar energy is much more introverted, it's much more remote, it's more distant, it's cooler. And so we're really talking about balancing all of it, right? And that I just wanted to throw that in the pot because I know for me, you know, even in my relationships, I can feel, you know, there's going to be times where we're more solar and there's going to be times where we're more lunar. And this is just another way we can create more balance, I think, around, you know, that perfectionist voice, which can be very, very dominant, very, very solar.
Absolutely. That's so right on. And I absolutely love lunar and solar as in many ways replacing the masculine and feminine, because we have that whole paradigm of all the things it brings in around gender. I want to come into that lunar, solar, masculine, feminine. There's a lot to talk about there, I think. But first, I want to just ask Johanna, do we have pressing questions that you want to
A couple of questions about work.
Okay.
One is someone who is in a job they can't quit currently because they need the money.
Yeah.
But they're working with someone who is very difficult. They're a yeller and full of stress, and they feel this kind of energy all week. And I think they're familiar with your work because she says, I have my sacred stars thanks to Janine. I journal and meditate my mind throughout the day, but by the end of the week/day, I just feel like running out of my job. I just want to know how to keep my peace without sacrificing my needs during this season that I have to work at this job I hate.
Oh my gosh. Anyone want to take that one?
It's my person, so I will. Yeah. So one of the things one of the questions that I would ask is do you have a script? So what I found is working in a really high pressure, I'm not talking to you, working in a really high pressure position with a lot of micromanagement and a lot of fiery energy requires a person who can do leadership in that space. And so if there's a recoiling or a hiding in that space, there won't be satisfaction. So I'm not encouraging engagement with that energy where you're fighting and twisting and turning, but there are ways that you can script your environment. Basically what that means is coming into a conversation with yourself where you sort of get the pattern. So this is a person you've worked with for a long time. You have an idea of what their triggers are, what they'll probably say. They probably have refrains. So a refrain is something the person says regularly or continually, like, oh, you're so stupid, or oh, you're always late, or oh, I can't deal with you people. Okay, so you have an idea around that. If you can prepare yourself after you do your sacred start, after you do your journals, the great way that I taught you to have sort of organize the beginning of your day, to have a space of a comeback, like a quick comeback in the space of your day. You'll walk in feeling more prepared, and you'll stand inside of a space of authority and leadership. It's basically you're dealing with a bully and a tyrant. So fighting with a bully or arguing with a bully will not work. That will zap your energy, and it will test you and put you on edge in a way where you won't be productive. So, but if you can create a comeback that's very simple and direct, and then vacate, it's communicate and vacate. Communicate and vacate. So you communicate directly, succinctly, and then you vacate. Go back to your cubicle, go to the restroom, go out to the parking lot, go to the break room. So you communicate and you vacate. If you can create that strategy during the course of your day, you're more likely to end your day feeling like you've accomplished something. You can trust yourself to be present in that situation. You'll respect yourself for not being bullied and not engaging or brooding over the commentary for long periods of time. And you will strengthen your narrative structure. So one of the things we talk about in the Supreme Law Project is, how are you messy in your mouth? How are you doing verbal vomit? In what ways do you need to clean up? Clean up your communication so that you can feel confident, comfortable with yourself, strong in yourself. So develop a way that you can say something very succinct, communicate and vacate. I hear you, thank you, vacate. Simple script.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And so when you say comeback, you're not necessarily saying bitch
don't be
slap them,
snarky,
right?
I'm not like that. Encouraging snark.
It's like response.
No,
it's actual response.
It's really communicative response. It is not about snark. It's not about gossiping.
Right.
That's messy in your mouth. We don't want to do that. We want to tighten up, our tongue. And so it's, I hear you, thank you, vacate.
Got it. Yeah, that's super clarifying, the comeback piece. Yes. What do you got, JJ? Mark on us first.
Oh, I have an intuitive hit. First of all, I love that you have a job. Yay. And it's time to start developing your side gig while you have a job to replace the job when it's time for the job to go. And part of your preparation is strengthening your boundaries. This is a person who is brought for your sake to learn this lesson with, because you're going to need it more when you have your own business.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Anyone else want to? Oh yeah, JJ.
And what I want to add, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the work of the late Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, but he wrote a book called Nonviolent Communication. And the bottom line for any situation is that when you have a negative emotion, it's because a need of yours is not being met. It's also not anyone else's responsibility to get your need met but you. So I don't mean that in like in a defensive way, but what is really cool about the work is that when you can identify how you feel and then figure out what your need is if it's not getting met, you can design strategies to get your need met that don't require anyone else to be different. So a lot of times we give our power away too much to people who we think again affect us in a negative way. They say that we want to be able to show up and heal ourselves, so it doesn't matter how anyone else shows up. You can see a screaming person who's screaming at you, saying the worst things, and you can feel nothing but love, peace, and compassion, truly, because you've healed your own wounds. And this person is showing up to show you what some of those wounds are and to show you what needs are not getting met. So this work is really, it's an ongoing process, but it really empowers you forever to know that no matter what situation, what person, what they're saying, what they're doing is happening, you know how to get your needs met, and therefore you are in peace and you are in empowerment.
Perfect. I love all of this about boundaries. That's so wonderful. And what I will add is just a very simple strategic piece to complement all of this. Everything first, all that, right? And then know that whatever your next step is out of this job, whatever your next step is out of the relationship as it currently is that's bothering you, you can make a difference with the tiniest of baby steps taken consistently over time. So do not think that you have to have some Herculean move or some heroic task or some big drama exit or anything like that. You can be taking care of yourself. You can be building yourself and healing yourself with things like 5 minutes of journaling before bed every day, just to give anger the pen for a moment and just let it be whatever it is without trying to change it, fix it, or make it wrong, right? If you have something that you would rather be doing, do that for 5 minutes a day, right? Even if it's something that you're like, well, I can't because I need money or people are, what would it look like if you were doing that thing you really wanted to do? Find a way to approximate that. Take the first step towards that, but never make never underestimate the power of a baby step, right? So, and that will start to make you feel stronger. That will start to make you feel like you are more who you are and more who you want to be. And that's going to inform those relationships and those choices in those moments, right? Awesome. So let's come into the whole masculine, feminine, because gosh darn it, my dad taught me. Oh, we've got questions. Johanna, go ahead.
Lisa, did you get to talking about the air element fraternity? Someone who wasn't sure.
Interesting. Thank you for the question. The intent, because we spent a lot of time in air. We spent so much time in the mental realm, was to offer you sort of the rest of the circle.
And the perfectionists wanted the air.
Right.
There was
So yeah, that was the offer. Was you're probably, like somebody else already said, you're the for most of us, we've already got the PhD in the mental realm, right? There's already so much air going on that my offering to you was, well, what's the rest of the quaternity look like? So yes, not that the air isn't extremely important, but yeah, thank you for the question. We're awash in it.
What else you got, Johanna?
Okay, so still on the work theme.
Yeah.
Can you say something about speaking up and standing in your truth in a workplace and getting through two decision makers and colleagues without losing or hiding your feminine voice or without adapting to a kind of masculine climate?
Oh, that is so perfect. Yeah, that's a really juicy one. So let me get into the conversation about masculine and feminine. I might just throw this one to Lisa because I just felt that that you just had over that. I was taught to think like a man. I was daddy's little girl. I was taught to think like a man. I am a smart person. And I also came into this world with a very big musical thing, right? I'm not even talent, gift, desire, blessing, whatever. It was a thing. Like music was a thing. It was not going to be ignored or silenced under any circumstances. And I got very left brain about it, very logical about it. I learned all of the structures, all of the schooling. I didn't start writing on instruments I didn't already know deeply until I was in my 30s. right? And I went to guitar to write a song because I had feelings that I couldn't get it right on the piano because I knew the piano too well. I knew the grid too intimately. It was like music was a spreadsheet and I needed it to just flow, right? And so I completely understand the conflict there in masculine, feminine, and yet, and the feelings of the feminine, the right brain, the creative, the generative. And yet I was not able to rectify, I was not able to integrate them in the world of my profession, in the world of show business, in the world of corporate contracts and negotiations and decisions. And to be honest, like this is why I'm going to throw this question out is I rendered myself unemployable. Like I opted out of the corporate world because my experience in the corporate world was that you did actually need to play with the boys and do it the boys' way. I personally did not solve that for myself until I committed to generating my own income in my own businesses. However, I still, of course, deal with men and things like that. And so for me, this has, I'll answer the question for myself, which is, it was a question about getting to decision makers, which I really like. I like the clarity of that, right? The getting to decision makers. And so really over and over, you just have to get into the question of what's in it for them. What's in it for them? Any conversation that you're having, don't get into a pissing match. Don't go masculine in the sense that I'm going to alpha you out. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to control you. I'm going to win. I'm going to kill you off, right? It's more getting into the sniffing around each other question of what do you need? What do you want? And to be able to have the power and the clarity to set your own masculine quote unquote agenda aside to put through, to express, to convey what actually needs to happen such that it shows up like their idea. What's in it for them? What's the win-win? That would be my personal way of dealing with that, but I would love to hear from all of you guys on this.
May I jump in just for a moment? I would like to say, and I appreciate what you just said about not contending with the masculine at work. That's not the way to go because that's also another battle. It's just another way to fight. It'll spend your energy and like really exhaust you. What I would suggest is like to really check in with your definition of femininity. One of the things that I recognized when I was coming into consciousness as a supreme lover and really redeveloping my lover identity was that I had a definition of femininity that was really cheap because I also was raised pretty masculinist. And it's so tricky because I was raised in this matriarchal space where my mom and my aunties and my grandmother were dominant, prominent, not dominant, they were prominent in my family. So I thought I understood femininity, you know, like femininity, like, what does that mean? Like you cook and clean and you bring the plate to the man? Is that, okay, so is that femininity? So I needed to do a lot of work deconstructing my own definition of femininity. I was not aware of how I was cheapening it. I was making it shallow and even sort of performative. I was making it really silly. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
insubstantial.
Definitely insubstantial. Weak, for sure. And I was not respecting femininity because I didn't have a big picture of the magnificence of femininity. I didn't understand goddess energy. I didn't understand organic generative energy. I didn't understand being and the power of beingness as opposed to doing. And so checking with your definition of femininity, I would say write it out. Like, what do you really think femininity is? And then go beyond that and say, how do you be? How are you a human being? How are you a human being as a feminine source and energy? And when you check in with your definition, then start asking people questions about femininity so that you can create for yourself a more powerful space. Because here's what I can tell you for sure. I'm in academia, I'm in a highly masculinist and super patriarchal and exceptionally white world. I'm super black. I love my blackness and I love my femininity. So I have an intersectional consciousness in my femininity that's very, very rich and deep. And here's what I found. A masculine giver loves a feminine receiver. I don't have any problems at work. I don't have any problems at work because my definition of femininity is very rich and very deep now. So take responsibility to really like give yourself a definition of femininity that's very dynamic, very organic, very expressive. I'm in full feminine presence at work and the masculine givers love me there.
I love that you called attention to that because that was the next thing. Go.
Deborah knows me from my money goddess work. I use 7 goddess archetypes, and they have a story from transforming your relationship with life. And then the areas that every female client I've ever had, what she needed next when money was no longer the boogeyman. My favorite women are my Athenas. They are goddesses of air, of the mind. They're represented by the owl. Big vision. When an Athena is in her power, she is the visionary and the leader of nations. And when she's in her wound, she thinks she's one of her own soldiers and is doing all of her own work. Athena women very often distrust the feminine. They may lack safe female friendships. That can be a big wound. And they may have ideas that feminine women are dishonest, gossipy, just all this negative stuff. When they get real access to their powerful feminine, especially through the power of Aphrodite, Aphrodite's power is her pleasure makes life happen. Like without it, everything dries up and dies and there's no fruit, there's no life. And when you've got an Athena woman who taps into her Aphrodite, and I'm going to give you a very specific example. A year ago, I was coaching a CEO of a big data company. I love these women, these totally masculine fields. And she had those wounds around the feminine and the masculine when it was safe for her to go into her feminine. Her competitors started showing up wanting to be her heroes because the masculine wants to be a hero. So she needed an attorney. Her competitor found her the attorney that she needed. She needs something. They are jumping all over themselves to serve her. So she gets to be this Athena leader and work less hard, get better results, and gives a gift of her pleasure and her receptivity.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. So yeah, I would say that that's probably the best, the culminating answer, the aggregate answer here is I now understand the nature of the question even a little better. It's like she feels like she has to like break through and go through all of these steps. How can I make that happen? And the answer here is actually like get connected with what it is that she wants to have happen and attract it and receive it.
And don't try to do it like a guy.
Yeah.
You're bringing it to you.
Just bring it to
And
you.
you're allowing it.
Yeah. I asked another mentor of mine once when I was single that I brought in this woman as a relationship coach, and she helped me draw in my husband, who's outside providing food for all of us today. We just celebrated 10 years, but when I first went to her and I was like the classic type A, single New York career woman, overachiever, where's my guy? What the hell? I'm cute, I'm smart, where's my guy? What the hell? Right? And I was like, and she started talking to me about attraction and about, but I was putting on a show as opposed to being seen. And it was so much harder for me to be seen because then I had to be real and vulnerable and actually like myself. And if like somebody liked me, well, there was clearly something wrong with them, right? So I had to work through all of that. And I was like, well, how do you find like the impossible guy? Because I had, of course, my list of like, he must be this and this and this. And it's like, how do you find that? And she's like, how do you find the needle in the haystack was the question. And the answer was you become the world's most powerful magnet. Right? And it was like, there it was. And then, and 7 months later, my husband.
And it's natural.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
when you talk about
Yes.
the magnet,
Yes.
it's natural. It's natural.
Polarity.
Exactly what you're talking about. It wants wholeness. And so when we can work on our own inner patriarchy, our own distrust of the feminine, because we all carry this. We are all victims of the paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So when we can honestly look at that, like how is it that I am pushing my body beyond what it can do? I won't even stop to pee, or I'm not going to stop to hydrate, or I can't take a day off, right? All these ways of righting ourselves and distrusting the soft animal body, or not listening to the heart, or not listening to our spirit saying, hello, what about me? Like, hello, this is not the direction I wanted to go, right? But when we do that, when we can have compassion for the ways that we've been raised, the ways that we've been programmed, and we can start to do that, it truly, magic starts to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really starts, doors start to open.
We've all experienced it. We promise, whichever camera I'm supposed to be talking to right now, we promise it really, really will happen. John is bursting with another question. We are about 5 minutes away from being totally done here, but I think we have time for at least one.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of love, and we do have a question about when we can hear from all of you again, because we love all the panelists. But I will ask this question. I just want to plant that one because I know you only have a couple of seconds.
Yes.
I love input on how to rewire/anger into feeling truly safe to restore my nervous system and energy and health, no longer using food for emotional and energy boost reasons. And how can I finally love my body, be free of agonizing perfectionism with some part of my believing I must look perfect to be sexual with a man or not pleasing him?
Oh gosh, well that's a rich one, isn't it?
For 5 minutes?
I know, 5 minutes. I want to hear from all of you. All right, 1 minute each, go.
My 1 minute answer to that is stop thinking about your body, analyzing your body, looking at your body in the mirror, and start feeling your body from the inside. That will start to shift things. You'll find it doesn't matter if you have cellulite on your thighs and whatever your judgments are when you are actually in this body. This body was designed for pleasure. This body was designed, and when you start to feel it, that will start to shift and soften. And it's a big question. I'm not trying to simplify it, but that's my one suggestion.
Answer. I love it. I love how you really embody feeling it from the inside. I love it. All right, JJ.
Well, I'm going to play off of that and take it to the left brainer and like, okay, but how do I do that? You put on your sexiest pair of underwear and a bra, or if you're, your boxers if you're a guy, or you put on whatever like makes you feel like so luxurious. You close all your drapes, you turn off your lights, you light some candles, you put on your favorite music, and you just make love to yourself with dancing. For like 5 minutes to activate that, because you have to have a better relationship with your body before any of this is going to get healed. And so if you can't heal that, then we have a barrier of always looking for validation outside of ourselves. So it's now time to embrace you. And there's lots of other exercises, from looking in the mirror, telling yourself that you love yourself. I've had clients do this and they break into tears because they've not ever looked in the mirror and told themselves they love themselves. So it's that simple stuff that's going to penetrate you hard and deep, and you're going to start to heal some of these wounds that you have. And started hard and deep with it with sex, I know. But so those are my start suggestions of things that in 1 minute I can tell you.
Absolutely beautiful.
Okay, so my big stand is around relationships. So it's a very similar conversation to what my colleagues have said. Really do an interrogation of what is your relationship to food? What is your relationship to your body? Now, when people used to tell me that, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? So relationship means lots of different things. And one of the simple ways you can understand it is beliefs and behaviors. What do you believe about food, and how do you behave in relation to food? What do you believe about your body, and how do you behave in relation to your body? So really develop a relationship with food and a relationship with your body through these social practices, through these intimacies that can help you to wake up to the truth of that substance, the substance of your body, the substance of the food. So if you can, for example, there's an exercise that I do, is like, if you can admire a bowl of blueberries, get a bowl, fill it with blueberries, stare at the blueberries and marvel, like be in awe. Notice how each blueberry is filled with sunlight and stardust and air and water and powerful material that when it hits your mouth will combust in a cooperative relationship for your sustenance and health. Just be with the blueberries. Literally, create a different relationship with food. When you look at your plate or when you look at a potato chip, create a different relationship. Do the same thing with your body. The same thing that I would say that JJ just talked about, create a relationship with your arms or your boobs. Like, how do you wash your boobs? Ask yourself that question. When you're in the shower, wash your boobs with soap so that you feel a bubbling up on your skin, and just stay there and feel and look and marvel. Yes. So literally create a different set of beliefs and behaviors with food and your body, and then you can have great sex.
Oh, that's fucking great. Sorry. Okay, Morgana, and then I got a minute wrap up and we'll
Yeah,
go.
I'm thinking in two different directions. One of my favorite all-time clients had such a severe eating disorder that the doctors said that based on her vitals, she should be dead.
Yeah.
And while she was hiring a pretend money coach, is mysterious. But here's the thing, that rage is actually a sacred, holy rage. This is how we rise up out of victimhood. The thing is, you're not angry at your body. So you're turning the rage on yourself that belongs at something else. And the first place I'd look is, what are you really raging at? And intuitively, I'm thinking that you're not getting the love that you deserve and desire is a huge area of rage. So it's, again, make it into a monster that is not you. Like, I do all those inner archetypes. I make friends with the eating disorder and all that kind of stuff. But when there's something that is so self-annihilating, I want to make it outside of you so that we can get rid of you and you remain untouched.
Yeah.
Get rid of the real monster and then see yourself through the eyes of love. Get in front of a mirror. By the way, if you look at the history of art and what the goddess of love looks like, she is short and tall and thin and fat and looks everything. So if you get in front of the mirror and look at yourself and just imagine you are Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and whatever you have, if it's high or low, big or small, stretchy or tight, whatever, that is the definition of beauty. Not that weird distortions in magazines. And just look and feel that you are a work of art, the source of love.
So good, so good. Final wrap up. So my answer to that question is yes to all of that, first of all, and watch your all or nothing thinking. Watch how you go immediately from I had a bite of cake to I suck, my body will always suck, I have a horrible relationship with food and no one will ever love me, right? Watch the super black and white, right and wrong, like I fell so far off the wagon, I don't even know where the wagon is kind of thing. Again, it's those baby steps. It's those, like, take those practices that each one of these people has given you. I love the blueberries so much, and I wash my boobs all the time. Great rack, I'm very excited. Yeah, but it's like, watch the all or nothing thinking and notice that any step you take, you always have a choice about what's next after that. You always have a choice about what's next after that. Again, it comes back to, what are you really committed to? What are you really devoted to? What do you really want and desire? Do you want and desire to actually lose weight? Okay, then take a look at what is going to get that to happen. Be in a place where you're integrated, where you're actually emotionally focused, and then whatever the strategy is, execute it. And if you have a bad day, you have a bad day. And if you have a great day, you have a great day. Watch the all or nothing thinking. Let it just be, this next step is what it is. And now I have a choice about what's next, whether it's the next 5 minutes, the next hour, or the next day. And speaking of the next 5 minutes, the next hour, or the next day, we are going to wrap now. I want to thank you all so much. Thank you, Lisa Schrader. Thank you, Morgana Ray. Thank you, Dr. Janine Staples. Thank you, JJ Flazanes. This has been Freedom for Perfectionists, a brand new all-live masterclass on how to break through the barriers holding you back. We are going to have a lot of follow-up here. We're going to be looking in the Facebook groups. If you didn't get a particular answer to your question or a particular link to send you wherever it is you wanted to go, we're going to be doing all of that over the next 24 to 48 hours. Please post your comments in the Facebook group if you haven't already. Thank you again so much. There'll be replays. There'll be all sorts of things going on where you're going to be able to get a piece of this. Of course, the best way to do it is to go to the VIP lounge, get your VIP pass so that you have these incredible gifts that all of these women have brought together, and you're a philanthropist donating to the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. I have been your host, Deborah Hurwitz. Much, much, much love to all of you, and may all of your dreams come true. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.